I am Thor, son of Odin, and as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say.
Great, another broken white boy for us to fix.
That's my secret, Cat. I'm always angry.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are. With great power comes great responsibility. I can do this all day.
Wakanda forever!
Welcome, internets, to Views from the 616, the Blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And you are joined by your first host, Tatiana King, the Grand Duchess of Tech, also known as the coldest Winter Soldier ever, aka Captain America, joined by my lovely co-host.
Yes, it's your boy, DJ BenHaMeen, a.k.a. John Walk It Out.
Hey, don't walk it out.
A.k.a. a pimp named Sam Wilson.
Okay.
A.k.a. Off-White Panther.
I'm so mad. Y'all, BenHaMeen said this a few minutes ago, and I was pissed because, like, why didn't I come up with that myself? That shit goes so hard. Congratulations, Ben.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm actually very jealous right now. It's taking everything in me not to scream, but good job.
Off-White Panther. Here we go.
That said, welcome back, y'all. We back with more views from the 616 to talk everything about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're back with our episode 2 review. Episode 2 is titled The Star-Spangled Man. And we're going to get you started right into the basic plot of the show. We are back with Black Falcon and the White Panther, or as you may know them as, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as Sam and Bucky try to get over their differences in order to come together and see what's happening. We catch back up with Enfys Nest and the Flag Smashers, who are on the move, as the past isn't just haunting our dynamic duo, but pretty much everyone on the show. Speaking of the past, we're going to check in with the Black Cap before our heroes realize the key to everything is diving into the world and finding Zemo.
All right.
All right. Very good. Now, as usual, this is directed by Kari Skoglund, who has done an incredible job thus far. When we talk about framing and intention, she has got it all. Thank you to you. And also, this show has been created by and is showrun by Malcolm Spellman. Shouts to you as well. And we are going to get right into the themes of the episode. Got to do the I guess the power. What was this?
That was me, like, the blast from the themes of the episode hitting me in the face.
And also, y'all should be watching us right now because you will see all the foolishness that we're doing. Make sure you're hitting this up, twitch.tv/forallnerds.
Word
yes.
Up. Say it again, before we get all into this.
Twitch.tv/forallnerds, where you can see us live and in living color, doing all sorts of foolishness and having a good time. And I'm telling you that when you see the facial expressions combined with what we're saying, it hits even harder. It slaps even more.
Plus, make sure you catch us every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We might need to change that, though, just because we're having some conflict with our illustrious friend Dallas Penn, because they're doing a clubhouse at 1 p.m. And I want everybody in on this, so we're going to figure that out. But right now, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, every Monday, be there. The chat is popping. Thank you all for everyone joining us, twitch.tv/forallnerds. And, if you're already here, hey.
I like our time slot.
You like the time slot? We're going to keep it there? We holding down that one for now? Okay.
We'll see what's up.
All right, we'll see what's up. Okay. That'll work.
So the first theme that we're going to dive into regarding episode 2 of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is mirrors. Also, inverses. Whenever you look into a mirror, you're actually seeing the inverse of yourself. Yes, it's all you. It's similar. It's your reflection, but there's also kind of reversed, right? Your right is your left is your right.
Yep.
And also black and white. And that's also very literal, but also in figurative manner. So we're going to explain all of that.
Yes.
So, specifically, there is heavy mirroring of experiences and behaviors between John Walker, Sam Wilson, Bucky Barnes. They all mirror Steve Rogers / Captain America in many different ways. And in essence, they also contain pieces of Steve's spirit. To me, they represent different facets of his personality, of how he moved in life, and why all of them have, as I say, little pieces of Captain America within them. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I fully agree there, and also I think it's because all of them are trying to reconcile their image of they have with Steve versus the reality of Steve, and then also the idea of reconciling the idea of living up to Steve, right?
Yes.
But also what the reality of living up to Steve means. You know, like every single one of them wants to honor his legacy, but how they go about doing it, you know, is personal to each of their own experiences.
Right. And funny enough, that reminds me of just, and we're going to talk through this later as well, but one of the lines that John Walker says where he's like, I didn't know him, but he was like a brother to me. And that's a line a lot of people say, like, particularly like when celebrities die, pass on, they say, well, I didn't know them, but they were part of my life. They were part of my family. They were this, they were that. And sometimes that's all good. Sometimes people who are family members are very like, that's cute, but you don't really know them. And that idea that technically it's really only Sam and Bucky who had that lived experience with Steve, who can really say, yo, I know this man. I got this man. John never really never really worked with him, but he feels his essence.
And I think it's also, like you said, that celebrity thing, because John, when the Avengers appeared in New York, I think John was in college. Like, I think they say his second year of college.
He was in West Point.
Yep. So this is somewhere, you know, he grew up with the university, you know, West Point University. So he's actually growing up with these people. And, you know, if you're in the military already at West Point and Captain America comes back, this dude who in this world is a historical figure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I remember everybody in this world knows him as this man who did the damn thing in World War II, vanished into the ice, and then when you're in high school, college, suddenly he's back leading the forces against, you know, an alien invasion. Like, that's why I think this episode starts to illustrate it, but how really ridiculous the Marvel universe is, and this is what we were talking about on our WandaVision reviews.
Yeah.
For like the normal person. You know, there is like, we bugged out, you know, recipes to everyone involved, but, you know, we bugged out over 9/11. That is nothing compared to Loki's attack on New York. Like, there is, you know, the amount of death and destruction that caused in that attack is like hundreds of times the amount of, you know, what happened.
You're just saying,
9/11.
like, just physically, the physical difference between the two and how wild.
Plus, I mean, there were flying dragons, you know what I mean? Like, imagine you just walking down, you know, 42nd, and this portal opens up and dragons pour out. Like, your brain snaps, you know what I mean?
Right, that's true. How do you process that?
Yeah,
I mean, tragedy, real life human tragedy is bad enough, and incomparable. But also, if that were to happen in real life, dragons flying out the sky, I get you.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So this episode just barely starts to get into that, you know. But I think that's a lot of what it is. Like, especially when they talk about the big three and all that. Like, this is. It's been a lot of wild stuff for somebody like John Walker. Captain America is more than a celebrity. You know what I mean? He is everything you could imagine. He's the guy who helped stop the aliens. You know, but then he might also be the guy who betrayed all your, you know, hopes and dreams when he went against the government. You know, you got to remember, like, this is a dude who, you know, represents everything to you. And John Walker is definitely a man who would have signed the Sokovia Accords.
Ooh. Well,
yes.
I mean, I'm in agreement with that.
I'm in agreement with that too. Like I say, you know, we gonna talk. You know, I'm definitely down. I'm definitely team John Walker right now.
We're on opposite sides of this situation. Yes. But that being said, with John Walker, and when we talk about mirrors and inverses as a theme, his ascent to Captain America is very Steve Rogers-like. If you all recall, or even go on YouTube right now, watch the first Avengers. There's the specific, particularly the scene when Steve was pretty much in the beginning of that, understanding that mantle. He had to learn that whole Star Spangled Man, USO performance situation where he goes all around the country doing propaganda.
Yes.
And it's to show the might of the U.S. and we got this and we got that. You should buy war bonds and all that. Like, all of that idea of kissing babies and shaking hands and signing autographs, and also being this tool of propaganda and patriotism is the same lane that John Walker's now going down. In essence, like all the corny shit you have to do also goes in hand with all the war shit you have to do.
Yeah. And the war shit is funded by the corny shit. Because and that's what's so interesting about this in the MCU, we're seeing things that happen in real life. Like even going back to the war in Iraq, when Desert Storm first happened, you can look it up. There are trading cards.
What?
You know what I mean? Yes, there are baseball like trading cards with, Reagan, Bush, probably Saddam, all this type, all the tanks they were using, all the planes they were using for kids to hype kids up because, as we have seen, this has been an endless war in the Middle East now. So you have to hype kids up to join the army. And that's something we didn't really talk about last week. Ugh. And it's something we have to, get into. And I should have really put this into the actual show run. But
that's okay.
Is the MCU a military propaganda tool? Not in the actual universe. I mean, in our lives.
IRL.
Yes, in real life. Yes. Is the MCU, and my answer is yes.
Wow.
And a strong yes. And this is something that I've talked about before. Like, they make you love the feds. They make you love the military might of America in different ways. While criticizing
I do love Jimmy Woo.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. They will criticize it, and it's always the thing of these one or two bad apples. It's always Hydra infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. Not S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably a disgusting, terrible organization. Because that's also, it goes to both sides, right? Because as we are in America, we want to be protected and stuff, but we also know that America has a history of imperialism, going beyond protecting and conquering.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
That's all historical.
Yeah, so that's what, like you said, you love Jimmy Woo. We love Captain Marvel. Recently, Captain Marvel started doing promotions with Northrop Grumman, with whatever that company is.
Northrop Grumman, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it basically the defense. They do a lot of other different things, but you can also
that's where they get their money at. It's like Tony Stark does a lot of different things, but at one point he got his money making bombs and missiles.
Arms dealer. So
yeah,
ugh. Right.
You know what I mean?
You're not wrong, BenHaMeen. Yeah. I would say you're not wrong. Would I sit here and call the whole of Marvel like this war machine, if you will? I don't.
You got a character named War Machine,
right? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But that's absolutely something to think about. So that's really important that you brought that up. Mm-hmm. Also, just in terms of what I've mentioned about having to do the corny shit, the shaking hands, the kissing babies, this also reminds me of those PSAs that Captain America did in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Mm. Like that's and all of that comes along with the territory, and that's what John's man's Lamar tries to tell him. Like, all of that goes hand in hand. Like, John tries to say, I just want to get out there and do the job. And Lamar's like, bro, this is the job. All of this is part of what is to be Captain America. Mm-hmm. You are, you can on the very bottom rung of things, you can say you're a hero that does X, Y, Z. However, you're also a symbol. You are also, as I keep using this term, tool, but you also are a tool of the state. You represent certain ideals and approaches to the world, and whether for good and bad too. So whatever people feel about America, that's probably the vibes you're giving off as well. Mm. At least when you're Captain America.
Yeah, I loved the PSAs in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Those are hilarious.
But especially when the coach, the PE teacher is like, pretty sure this guy's a war criminal, but I got to show you these anyway.
Yeah.
Because at that point, Captain America was a war criminal. Like I said, when he probably broke John Walker's heart was when he was off, on the run for 2 years, which they also talk about in this episode.
Right. And also because Captain America is in essence himself propaganda, his imagery is used as propaganda. You see that Cap is back U.S. Army poster everywhere.
Yeah. With the actual U.S. Army logo on
like the real logo.
Our real logo.
Everywhere. Yeah. And also that's product placement. But that's everywhere.
Propaganda.
We're not making this up, y'all. It's right there. So just in case people say, you're reaching. No, it's right there.
No, it's right there.
And also in terms of when we look at the mirror of who John is versus Steve is, you also can see it right in the way they dress, the way they present themselves, right into their Captain America suits. We have seen over the years how Steve Rogers' suits has progressed over time, especially when you start with that very classic comic book costume with the little white wings, very aggressively patriotic.
Yep.
And John's let me finish with his. Very aggressively patriotic, but then at least in the MCU, as time goes on, it becomes what's the other word for decolored? It's not as saturated in color in the red, white, and blue. It's more desaturated. It's more tactical than anything. It starts trending towards black almost. And besides the actual patriotic like stripes and that one star, you don't have any really, to me, I don't see anything identifying as America. You have A's, but those really represent Avenger. Whereas you see John's costume, again, it's not as aggressively, at least it's not like a pin, it's not a Uncle Sam pant wearing type costume. However, it does have the colors of the US, has the red, white, and blue. And it also has that new star. It's like a star and an A to more so represent America.
Yep.
And to me, that A, and I just kept staring at it. That A looked like the Hamilton logo to me, number one. So I was just like, damn, this is wild commercialized. And also and BenHaMeen tried to say maybe because I don't like the man's, the costume was giving me big Confederate States of America vibes, just in terms of, and I'm not talking about the Confederate flag with the X. I'm talking about the old. Y'all gotta look it up. It's an old. Look up Confederate States of America, and that flag is 3 lines, 3 stripes. It's red, white, and red. It's the blue square and then a circle of stars, the white stars. And when you just look at it next to the costume, next to John's costume, it looks pretty fucking similar. But it could just be coincidental. I get it. It's just that's just the vibe it gave me.
In defense of John Walker's costume, it's pretty much a note-for-note recreation of the suit that Captain America, Steve Rogers, first wore when he turned in his suit to the government, the suit and the shield. He gives it up in the comics, which leads them to recruit John Walker to be it. So while John Walker's being Captain America starts going around in a black, red, and white suit with that cut-off flag, just like we see, and calling himself the Captain. And saying that people wouldn't know who the fuck he was, which was hilarious to a very young BenHaMeen, because I'm like,
wait, he tried to say like some Clark Kent shit, like, I got glasses on, they're not gonna recognize me, like, man,
like, fam, you got the same suit on, it's just black, like,
I can see you, Drax, I can see you, you're right there,
you're right there, eating chips, no, even as a young kid, I was like, word, alright, but the suit was fire, so I went along with it. And then when Cap got his suit back and his shield back, later on, John Walker took the suit and became U.S. agent. So I don't think it's Confederate vibe.
Yes, I see it clear as day that it's just a recreation of an old, like, first of all, there's multiple Captain America suits. I get it.
Yes,
but I don't like that man, so he could sit with the Confederate States, okay?
Wow. But this does go back to saying that, like, we were talking about how the whole military propaganda and how people think we're reaching things, right? But this is something I've always talked about, like, even on with social media and stuff, when people retweet things that are like, let's say last week everyone was retweeting Meghan McCain to diss on her, right?
Right.
But what I always don't tell people is, like, people who are following you have different views than you do.
Oh, yeah.
You have tons of people who are following you just to see what you talk about. Yeah. So those people, you're just helping them see more people like that. You're like, oh, okay, you're exposing them to their audience, to their target audience, or to those who are on the fence.
Yeah, and I think it's important to learn to recognize the difference between someone trying to make a point and someone just trolling. Like,
yes. And
like that's why I was very clear, like, the whole Confederate stuff, like, I know it's just me acting like that because I don't like the guy. Like, I'm not making a encyclopedia of MCU entry. Like, I don't like the man, so I'm trolling.
My point of that is, I know you are trolling, but my point of that is, it's also that, like, when we think of the MCU, we think of it as being a very liberal show, universe, everything, which it might be.
There's a lot of people in there that not.
And there's a lot of fans of it that are not.
Correct.
There are just as many conservative fans of, the MCU as there are liberal fans, whatever. or whatever dumbass term you want to apply to yourself. It
don't matter.
Because I've seen that too. I mean, this is a tangent real quick, but I've seen people getting like, "Oh, liberals are whack," and I'm just like, well, I don't care, what you call yourself, fam, but you know what I'm talking about.
Correct.
And there are fans of that people who are going to see John Walker, even if he veers all the way, to ways where we're like, oh, he's evil. There could be people who would be like, nah, he's got the right mentality.
Oh, like how you feel about your man Wayward Hayward.
Once again, because
I don't know. I'm not trying to pick a fight.
If you live in, the empathy for Westview is so low. It's at an all-time low.
Okay, we're not talking about WandaVision. I'm sorry. I just saw the opportunity.
Empathy for Westview.
I had to take my shot. I had to take my shot. But yes, back to this theme of mirroring again when we're talking about.
We got to talk about this theme song. We got to talk about that.
Yes, when we're talking about John Walker. And just also, we see lots of mirror images throughout the episode with him when you call him the fake Cap. When the fake Cap picks up Bucky and Sam when they're walking along the road, they pick him up in that little Jeep. They're sitting in a mirror image of each other. And that actually repeats throughout the episode where Bucky and Sam versus John and Lamar are standing in opposite or mirrored to them to try to show that they are on opposing viewpoints, they're opposing approaches. They are similar but different, a mirror. Mm-hmm. And you want to mention the song.
Yes, the drumline version of Star Spangled Man.
Yes.
For those remember, like we talked about earlier, when in Captain America: First Avenger, when the promo scene starts, when the propaganda scene starts, there's this song. It's the Star Spangled Man,
Mm-hmm.
Man with the Plan, basically, and it's talking about Cap, telling his story about how he don't punch out Hitler and some other stuff. You said there's some questionable lyrics in the song.
Oh, there's some. First of all, if you go to YouTube and look up that specific scene, it gives you all the lyrics in the comments in the description bar. And one line was to the effect of he'll put the noose on evil or something like that.
Yikes!
Yeah, like dead ass. And I was like, oh. Now, obviously, this is on purpose, right? The writers, I hope the writers of that scene or whatever, were very smart and they knew that there were a lot of connotations. And when you think about it, like the anthem, was it the anthem or is it what is it that the full the American anthem? Which one is it? Is it the anthem or the other one? What's the other one called? Like there's America the Beautiful, there's the anthem, and there's something else. But anyway, one of those songs, actually, if you listen to the whole song, all the lyrics, it has wild racist shit in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about slaves and everything. It's terrible.
Yeah. But anyway, it's and the only reason why I brought that up is to express how the Star Spangled Man song follows similar motifs, where it's supposed to be this patriotic, rah-rah, sis, boom, bah type stuff, but it also has some wild stuff that they're saying in the song that could be taken some different types of ways.
Yes. And so now with the introduction of John Walker, we have this drumline version, straight up HU. Looked like they was out there in the blue and white, which hurts my feelings. But could have been, with the funky. I mean, you heard the ta, 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 ta. When it was coming in
the
like
beginning?
right away, you was like, oh shit,
It was very
you already knew.
It was very HBCU like, very Battle of the Bands like in terms of the intro, in terms of the styling of the
Nick
song.
Cannon was gonna come out there for a second.
Now mirror that with the original Star Spangled Man song from the first Avenger.
Yep.
And it's literally seasoned versus unseasoned. And again, it felt like that to me, but I also, in real life, it's also because it's a contrast. It's a contrast to time. It's a contrast to the audience. That it's a contrast to the quote unquote fictional creators who made these songs and who are composing these songs about what their intention is, right? So just like there's different music styles and art styles and clothing styles, same approach. But it really was seasoned versus unseasoned for me.
Yes, and it's definitely that. And I think we talked about this off air last week. But even in the really quick scene of John walking down the steps last week and waving to the crowd, you see a black woman in the audience screaming with joy, and so you can already see that they are appealing to a multicultural audience. And in this introduction, even though it takes place on Good Morning America, probably one of still, the whitest Midwest, big, appeal to everybody shows out there, the audience where, and even though it's at George Custer High School, right, which we'll get into later on, but as we see, this is a big-ass high school. This is one of them southern high schools, like the kind I grew up in where football's God, and they can have a big, giant field for a high school, right?
Right.
So we have all of that going on. Crowd, all kind of brown, every color up in there.
And I knew you were going to say that, which brings up this point. You have to remember, because this is a TV broadcast, a lot of this is staged, meaning they purposely put people where they want them to be. They purposely make things look a certain way. Obviously, when you're talking about a drum line, everything's super choreographed and precise. It reminds me of when you see presidential elections and they're going on the road. The people you see behind them, they were put there. They didn't just find the seat and was having Kiki having a good time. Like, someone on the committee or whomever those people are called, they pull them and say, you black man, you sit there, and you racially ambiguous man, you sit there, and you woman, you sit there, because they're trying to give off a message.
Now, that also begs the question, right? Because the George Custer High School comes from the comic books. That's where John is from, all that. We all know who George Custer was, the man who failed, tried to, get it up against the Native Americans and got murked out, led his people to a horrible end.
The Lakota murked his dumb ass.
Yeah, because his dumb ass, didn't, fucked around and found out, basically. One of the originators of fucking around and finding out. But also that begs the question, this takes place in the South, like, the high school is probably going to be black.
Absolutely.
Even at a school named George Custer, it's going to be nothing but black kids there.
Especially at a school named George Custer. Let's be real, right?
Let's be real, right? So So this might be their band, might be their whole thing. They're all happy to see, the white boy quarterback, who they love. My man was probably...
Those people look grown. The band some of the people in the band look a bit grown, but who knows? Like I said,
that's Hollywood. We never know.
That's Hollywood. And the whole point is, yes, it could be absolutely people from that place, but it's also highly choreographed, highly staged. It's on TV.
Yes,
and this is about the coming out of, hey, it's Captain America, y'all. Like, this is
can be down with him
too. This is his time. Yeah.
Yes.
So come on.
Yep. It's everybody. That's what I mean. That's what's so ill about this thing, because it's like they're definitely selling this white bread, perhaps, as you say, Southern good old boy, John Walker, to a multicultural audience.
Yeah.
While before they were selling Steve Rogers to the white people, like, look, this guy's for us. And that's, even though he might not be, it's like mirror images once again. Even though John Walker might, it definitely probably ain't for these people who they're selling him to. And Steve wasn't for the people they were selling him to, but, that's who they sold him to.
Notice the common denominator: sell. Sell.
Yeah.
Sell.
Capitalism, America.
Lamar and Battlestar. So Lamar/Battlestar, when he's talking to John in the locker room, that conversation for me mirrored the conversation Rhodey had with Sam in that museum regarding the Captain America mantle. When Lamar is trying to explain that the suit comes with expectations, and it's interesting because John is, at least outwardly, John is on a side where he absolutely wants this mantle. Like, he's not trying to replace Steve. He's just trying to push that legacy forward. And Lamar is just expressing to him that there's other parts to it that you have to understand. Whereas on the inverse, you have Rhodey talking to Sam, who seems to not want it. He's very Jon Snow about it. I don't want it. And he's and Rhodey's just like, what is your thinking process on this? And you have to understand, like, all of the stuff that you're maybe nervous about comes with it.
Yeah. I mean, does not, like, I mean, he says it best later on when Bucky tries to, come at him about it, but he's like, y'all, you and Steve will never understand.
Yeah.
Like, because you're white.
Yeah. In a comical reference to...
white.
White? You say like Stewie.
This is all white.
Cool whip. Gotta say like Stewie.
Yeah.
In a comical reference to the mirror theme, I wanted to note Bucky, particularly when he jumps out of the plane and when he joins Sam on that mission. He jumps out of the plane without a parachute because Taurus is like, it's only 200 feet. He does it very similarly to how Cap did it in the Winter Soldier film, in that opening scene of Winter Soldier, when they're first rescuing hostages from our friend Batroc. The only difference, though, Cap was very smooth with his, because as we see with Bucky, I really don't care. But as we see with Bucky, he's not smooth whatsoever. I don't know what his plan was. He was just tight. And he was just like, I just gonna do what I want to do. He didn't have no plan. And it's kind of indicative of how he's been moving through life thus far. He don't really got a plan. He's just jumping at it, just whatever comes will come. And also Sam mentions it how like you just use brute force. Like you're just, instead of being more tactical about it, you're just going right at it.
Mm-hmm. And also that scene, shout out to the jumping out of the plane. It's from Winter Soldier, which took it from the Ultimates, when there's a scene when Cap is leading a bunch of soldiers into war in World War II with Bucky on the plane with him. And they're all like, this guy's going to get us all killed. This is a suicide mission. We're behind enemy lines. You know, the planes getting shot up as they're flying in, all this. They're like, we're doomed. And then Cap just straight jumps out. Right. You know, no. And they're all like, yo, what? This guy left us? And he's like, nah, he went, you know, Bucky's like, he wants to get up, heads up. And he's like, no parachute? He's like, parachutes are for punks. You know what I mean? And
it's also, parachutes are also not needed when you're a super soldier.
There it is. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You know,
it kind of,
let's keep it real.
It's just 200 feet. It's just 200 feet off the ground. I'll make it.
Yeah.
You know, what's a little tumble in the forest? I'm still good.
Yeah. Any of us would have splatted.
Yeah. We see, and when we come to Sam, how he mirrors Captain America just in his approach to life. As I mentioned, Sam essentially chides Bucky just for just being so aggressive and just being so brute force, whereas Sam is like, yo, back up, let's use the tools, let's use Red Wing, let's use all of the supplementary things we have to make an informed decision. Just like when Bucky was just going to run up in there and Bucky's like, it's only 2 people. And Sam's like, hold up, there's actually more. And let's go about this the right way. Very similar to how Cap, like, even though Cap may do things like, as you mentioned, to just get ahead of things, he also thinks very smartly, very strategic. And he's also can be very covert. That once again, that first, the Winter Soldier movie, he was still kind of being covert when he jumped onto that boat. And really, for different reasons, Sam recognizes he has to move differently from everyone else. Yes, literally, because this is a secret mission, you got to be careful, but also because of who he is and how he has to approach life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And finally, in the mirror inverse theme, I got to ask this question. At least in the MCU, does every white person have a black partner? Is this my imagination or what's going on?
Give me back my roadie.
Oh, God. It's always that last line.
It's always that last line, right?
It's always
Give me back my roadie.
Oh, Jesus.
Ooh. Who's that? Is that Josh Whedon? Ooh. Oh,
I
don't mean to kick a man when he's down, but that damn boy. Wait, no, it's not. That's the Russos. No, that's the mother dude. Yeah, that's the dudes who write for the Russos. Oh, can't even blame Josh. Oh, okay. Hurts. Give me back my roadie. Yeah.
When the examples of every white person, almost every white person having a black partner, you see John Walker or the new Captain America and Battlestar. And of course, you see Sam and Bucky. Now, in this case, the inverse is happening, right?
Yep.
Sam is the leader, and Bucky will essentially be his partner. But it's still what's going on.
I don't think so. I think they're both about the same.
This is
a buddy cop with them. And
this is definitely. But I'm just saying,
when they leave each other, they're gonna be. They're not. He ain't gonna be his Bucky.
Clearly. However, in the context of the example, yes. And I actually mentioned that, just the contrast of how these people will team up with each other or won't.
Yeah.
Again, and that's the next point that I was going to make, actually, what you just said about the fact that Sam and Bucky, they are not going to do the dynamic duel type of thing. No. If anything, it will be buddy cop, where you have a contentious relationship with the other, but you, at the end of the day, you really do love them. Mm-hmm. And you see that again happen during that therapy scene with Sam and Bucky, which was hilarious. And I'm glad that it's so funny because everyone laughed at that real quick clip when they saw the trailer, because their legs were intertwined and they were like, are they at couples therapy? They actually were in couples therapy. And once again, seeing the mirror of each other, the way they stared at each other and try to figure out what is going on in that man's mind. What is he thinking? Why is he aggravating me? Shit like that.
I mean, when they had to position their legs to make sure they were, intertwined was...
I thought it was funny and cute, so...
I need them to put... we need to slow that down and put like that... some R&B music over it.
Some smooth jazz and R&B music on it.
Yes.
Well,
when they're sliding the chairs together.
Again, to me, it was just indicative that they have a real relationship, whether they like it or not. And regardless of how they may feel in the moment, they clearly love each other and care for each other as friends and as colleagues and as family. Like how else would you be able to get that close to somebody? Like, if you're not fucking with somebody, you're not sitting that close to them, period. So there is a true relationship there, but clearly they're having some problems. So that's why they're in therapy. You also see this, as I mentioned, the whole black partner, white person thing when you see Sam and Steve. Steve Rogers and Sam himself. I thought it was funny. John Walker and his wife Olivia Walker. John Walker and Sam Wilson, they're inverses of each other, but they also have their own similarities. Again, they're both mirrors of Captain America, but they go about life a little bit differently.
Yep. And then you also have Bucky and John, like you said.
Yeah. It's a lot, and it just kept repeating itself over and over again. That's why I was just like, is this my imagination or what? But I think it's actually real.
And that's also, two things there. First, John Walker and his wife, don't get too attached to Olivia, folks, because John has a lot of trauma in his life in the comic books, and since we have not seen his parents yet, I worry for Olivia. Also.
Oh, wait. Okay, George R. Martin, why'd you say that? Like, oh, shit.
She gonna die. She not gonna be here. No.
What?
Yeah. Well, look. Like I said,
are you guessing this? I'm saying, are you being an encyclopedia right now, or you're just saying it might happen? I'm
speculating right now because
you're speculating. Okay.
In the comic books, what drives John Walker over the edge is the murder of his parents.
Okay.
By various forces.
Okay.
So. Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
I'm like, we just seen her. Like, why would you tell me that? Okay.
Body bags. And also the line that you pointed out right there that was really big to me was when Lamar says to John that you can't just punch your way out of problems anymore. Mm-hmm. That is a big hint to the character of the man that we're talking to right here. Did John always punch his way out of problems? Like you said before, John is the Sokovia Accords. Also, in that same conversation, they drop another big hint. 2 weeks ago, we were pulling covert ops, right? Like, these guys are grimy.
That's some SOCOM stuff. Like
these are some murderers. Stuff. Yeah, these are some killers of the killers.
Yeah.
So, right away, like, that's one thing I really like because I felt like, as much as I defended Hayward on the last one, I felt like his character was written like there were no shades of gray. It was straight up, this man is an evil monster, even though he was the most logical character for most of the series. But they just had to make you think of him as evil. But I really love, and I said this last week, I was really hoping they'd do this, and I really love how they're approaching the character of John Walker so far.
Absolutely.
Like, from the gate, you get all that greatness. Because in the comics, it was the same thing. Like, he starts off as this boastful dude who's like, yo, I got it. I could beat Cap. And then when they're like, yo, you want to beat Cap? And the first time he puts on the suit and the shield, he's like, yo, I'm not ready. And tries to throw the shield and almost knocks his own head off. He's like, how does this dude do this? And he has to train and train and train to even be close to Cap. And even then he realizes he'll never be Steve Rogers. Mm-hmm. So I really love to see that we're already getting that from the very gate. That this guy, realizes it's not just about the super soldier serum. It's something else that makes Steve.
Because as we see with the Flag Smashers, which I believe they're on some version of that serum, anybody could be a super soldier.
Yep, but that still doesn't make them Steve. And he gets that question where Bucky asked him, have you ever jumped on a grenade? And Steve did that before he had anything.
Mm-hmm. He did that before he knew he could die.
Yes. I mean, his thought was he would die.
Yeah.
He would jump on this grenade and that would be
to save his comrades.
Yep. And while he's like, I jumped on it, but I had a helmet, it's a whole thing. I'm like, man,
I don't say he's like a clout chaser. I don't like this man. I don't.
See, I like him, but that's the thing, because it's a calculated risk for him at that point. But I like the character of John Walker because it's showing like he wants to do the right thing. He idolizes this man, Steve Rogers. He's trying to do the right thing throughout the episode. He is really like, yo, he comes in to help these people. He's like, yo, let's team up. I've always, this is what I think of him as like, I think his biggest character flaw is that he's a white dude who has all these natural gifts and stuff. So everything has always come easy to him. Like I said, he's a high school quarterback, probably the star, probably at the black school, probably had a black girlfriend. You know
he
what I mean?
clearly had a black girlfriend. That's his wife. Because his girlfriend,
Right.
his wife, Olivia, says, "Oh, I used to come and visit you into the locker room." They were dating since high school.
That's what I'm saying. So this dude is like at the black school, the white boy, the man, things have always like, come on, you play football with black kids and you still popping, you popping, right? So he was probably the star athlete there, went to West Point. Right, boom, he's popping there. Everything it's not been given to him because he's had to work hard.
MIT has studied his body.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not that it's been given. He's not one of these mediocre dudes where it's just been given to him just because he's white. He's had to work harder, but it's also he's naturally gifted.
He's naturally gifted, right?
Yeah,
right,
so
right,
he's nice. But then, of course, it's like LeBron, he's naturally gifted, but he's still got to work hard to be the best ever, right? So this dude works hard because he wants to be Cap. He sees Cap. A superhuman, something he knows he can't be, but he's striving to be. Mm-hmm. So this dude is trying to do the right thing, but at the same time, it just might be the character flaw is that he has never had those losses.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's never been teach humility. Things like that haven't really come into his life yet. So when people push back at him, like when you see Falcon be like, "Nah, we got this," he's like, "What? You know what I mean? What? Nobody ever told me no. Nah, And so I think that might be the problem we see coming up later.
Absolutely.
But as far as a character, I think he's very dope. I think he's a very, they're doing even more, like John Walker in the comics was nuanced, but I think they're even adding more layers to him, and it's really dope to see. So I'm just,
I agree
I'm
that
team
he's
John Walk it out right now.
I agree that he's a layered, nuanced character. I also
up until that last line. It's always the last line, right?
I also agree that I don't like the niggas, so moving on.
I feel you. I feel you. But,
moving on.
I'm team John Walk it out.
The next theme we wanted...
Because grumpy old men, the two grumpy old men, they got more issues than this dude does. Let's be clear.
The next theme we're going to go into is the Star-Spangled Man. Also, the theme of identity keeps creeping up again.
Yep.
And I want to use this to talk right now specifically about Isaiah Bradley. Because this is a huge, huge character just in general. It's also a character that we've talked about throughout For All Nerds from the podcast. We've even, I believe, mentioned him during WandaVision at one point. But the point is, this is a huge character that after learning about him, after meeting you, Ben, learning about him, and realizing that he's been nowhere to be found for the most part, at least in my modern times, until relatively recently. And the same thing, the same mirror is happening as you see in the MCU, as you are seeing in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Isaiah was a super soldier. He was this group of black super soldiers that were basically experimented on because the government wanted more of that, more super soldiers like Steve Rogers. And when Bucky revealed this man, he went to Baltimore, Maryland, which has so many implications of why they went to Baltimore. In the comics, Isaiah's from New York. Mm-hmm. I think he's from Harlem, or he lives in Harlem. But yeah, the Baltimore connection there's a lot there. But rightfully so, Sam is pissed when he learns about Isaiah, especially because he's black, and the fact that Bucky kept the info from everyone, including Captain America, Steve Rogers.
Mm-hmm. But John Walker knows about it. John Walker mentions to Bucky the legacy of that serum is a little questionable. He says something along those lines.
Oh, he did say that. Jeep. I thought he was just saying because obviously Bucky went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, so that's what he was saying.
Who else? John's gonna know all this. This is all like government knowledge. You know what I mean? John's gonna know this stuff, and he's gonna be told it, or he's gonna have studied it. That's the thing. It's like Falcon just like, even in the comments, it's like a lot of people know about Isaiah Bradley, but it's more usually the black people, which is why Falcon might be a little distressed, but he's also young. It's a lot of different things to go into it, but he does feel like Bucky should have told him about it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. In the comments, since we're talking about Isaiah Bradley real quick, Isaiah Bradley comes from a miniseries called Truth, Red, White, and Black, which is written by Robert Morales with art by Kyle Baker. It's currently out of print. Hopefully Marvel brings it back into print right now, because it is stupid expensive to get yourself a copy, because it hasn't been in print for a long time. And this, the MCU version pretty much mirrors the comics version. They said in the MCU that Isaiah was in prison for 30 years, while in the comics it was 17. But what happens is after Dr. Erskine, who we saw in First Avenger and in the comics, same origin, he gets murdered right after Cap gets the serum. So Cap is the only super soldier when they were supposed to be creating an army of these dudes.
Right.
So, of course, the government keeps going, keeps trying. It's even mentioned in the Avengers that, and the Hulk is, in the MCU at least, is a version of Bruce was trying to recreate the super soldier serum. But he used it with Gamma. And what's his name? The SHIELD agent who gets murked, and Coulson tells Cap that multiple people have been trying to recreate the super soldier serum. So it might have been a lot of people who led to the creation of Isaiah. And of course, we see, Bucky has a version of the super soldier serum in himself. But anyway, Isaiah is one of 300 black men who get not even volunteered. It's horrible how they are basically forced into this experiment where all but 10 of them die off. Out of 300, 10 survive with a version of the serum inside of them. They are used to go on various missions, where they're fighting Nazis, fighting Hydra, fighting everyone, fighting America's enemies, but never known as, their families are told they died in various ways, and they go off on these missions until all but 3 of them are killed. They end up killing each other in a wild incident, and Isaiah is the only one who survives. Isaiah goes on a mission which is supposed to be a suicide mission because he was supposed to meet up. It was supposed to be the 3 of them along with Steve.
See.
Yeah, Steve gets tied up still in the Pacific, and so Isaiah has to go on this mission by himself. It's supposed to be a suicide mission at that point, but he destroys this German Nazi facility where they are doing all kind of horrible experiments on human beings, completely destroys it. But in doing so, he puts on Captain America's uniform. He was like, nah, F that. I'm Cap. I'm going in as Captain America.
That's his right.
Yeah, if I'm going to die for this country, I'm going to, at least represent it as I go out. So he succeeds in the mission, comes back to the U.S., and gets promptly thrown in jail for stealing the Captain America uniform, where he stays for 17 years. The super soldier serum corrupts his mind, reducing him to that of like a little boy by the time he finally gets out. So his wife, gets him out, and he's reduced to this.
So to think, after everything you've done in service of your country and countrymen, you get locked up for some petty shit. Because you stole the uniform. Now, everyone could sit there. Now, we always said, well, the uniform represents something. But what are you trying to say by saying that Isaiah Bradley can't represent America?
And I'd only heard of Truth, Red and White. I've read like excerpts from it and stuff, and I knew the general story. But it was this week that I read it online because, like I say, it's so expensive to get. So I read it online, and oh my God, it's heartbreaking on so many levels. The writing, the art is just beautiful. If it's on, I'm not sure if it's on Comixology or anything like that, but check it out. However you can get a copy of it, please do. And hopefully Marvel puts it back in print right now, because it is just, it's just so good. And
doesn't it sound familiar? It sound familiar? I know veterans in general get it the worst. Also, Black veterans, to think, especially when I'm thinking about, I mean, it's still happening today, but when I'm thinking about like during Jim Crow times and all that stuff, when you're going across seas, you're going overseas to do whatever it is you need to do, you get back and you're still being called the N-word.
Yeah, and that happens.
And you still have no rights. You have less rights over here than you did when you're fighting for this country and all this other stuff. And I see those parallels that they put into Isaiah Bradley's story. And also that's that idea of him and Black people really just being used for experimentation, and also being used in essence to become these innovators and trailblazers, but then either ignored, disrespected, or cast aside. Look at how they did Isaiah Bradley dirty. And
also,
go ahead. Also,
no, I'll just say, while we were talking about Isaiah, the person who opens the door and lets Sam and them into the house is Eli Bradley. Yeah, his grandson, who becomes a character known as the Patriot in Young Avengers. So we now have, like we were talking about before, since we talked about WandaVision, we have Wiccan and Speed. We have Kate Bishop coming up in the Hawkeye series, and we have Eli Bradley showing up in this series.
Right. And apparently he inherits the super soldier serum through his blood.
No.
Or it's a little shaky. I know,
a
like
little shaky. That's what he tells them, but in
Okay.
fact, he's juicing and using this.
Oh, he's juicing. Okay.
Yeah, he's using a human growth hormone, like the mutant growth hormone
Oh.
type version of it,
So he's
to gain
juicing.
powers similar to his dad.
But then I know in the comics something happens where he gets sick or gets hurt or something, and he
Yes.
ends up getting a blood transfusion from Isaiah.
Yes.
And that's how it ends up imbuing his system or his actual self with the powers of a super soldier. Okay.
And as we see, when Isaiah gets Buck in this episode and throws that thing into the wall, which lodges into the wall.
I thought it was like a Domino's, like a container.
A gold case, something,
Yeah.
some type of case. Maybe tobacco case, I don't know what. But my man slammed that into the wall, and Eli sees it and knows that his grandfather has powers.
Yeah, it's not a surprise. Like
No.
he's because meaning he's seen his grandfather flip out. Assuming this is Eli, he sees.
Oh, it's Eli. He's listening
Oh, it's
to
100% Eli. Okay,
100%.
Eli sees this. He's used to it because apparently this happens all the time and all that. And that's also why he's like, "Yo, mans don't want to see you right now." Like he's trying to keep the peace and keep his grandfather at least happy. I don't even know how old Isaiah really is, at least in the show, and if he's going to continue, because he's an old man presenting, but is he still going to live on for quite some more time?
That's okay. Someone already asked us this because they were like, "Why does Isaiah seem so old versus Bucky?"
But that's how old Cap would be, because Bucky and them was on ice.
Yes, Bucky and Cap were both on ice, and that's why Isaiah has been living. So even though he
Right.
might live longer than a normal human being, he is definitely going to show the effects.
And he definitely ages like you see Cap age when he decided to go live his life. He
Yes.
became an old man too.
And Cap at that point probably lived like 200 years because he'd already lived the time that we've seen him live, and then he went back and lived another. Who knows? He might have gone on all kinds of time travel adventures.
Right.
We don't know.
So Isaiah expressing how the government treated him when he came back, the fact that they threw him in jail, that they experimented on him, both the government and Hydra, because he says your people when he was talking to Bucky, and Bucky explained that he meant Hydra. So all types of folks was fucking with him. And put that in stark contrast to the treatment of Bucky, right? As another super soldier. And even Captain America, we want to take it that far, but specifically between Bucky. Bucky got a whole fucking pardon for a good reason, but he gets therapy, some fruit snacks, and he's told to go about his life. Whereas you have Isaiah, and yes, it was in a different situation, but this is still a man that's fighting for the right of this country, of the people to live. And he comes back and gets thrown in jail.
Yeah, well, you know what that means. Yeah. One of them is a white.
White. Are we going to do this? Are we doing this, Stewie? White. That quote, I want to just mention again. This quote, or maybe the first time, I'm not sure if I said this earlier, but this quote that Isaiah says to Bucky, he says, well, he kind of saying it to both of them, right? Both Bucky and Sam.
Straight up.
You think you can wake up one day and decide who you want to be? Maybe it works for folks like you. And he's looking to Bucky when he says that last part.
But the reaction
shot shows that it really applies to both of them.
Yes, the reaction shot is Sam like, oh, damn, he right.
Yeah. And did you want to go into that about who he's speaking to?
Well, he's speaking directly to Bucky because Bucky is like, I'm not a killer anymore. And he's like, Negro, please, you're still a killer. Like, you was a killer then, you a killer now, I see your arm. Pretty sure you killed some people recently. Wasn't you just spinning a raccoon around, shooting up some aliens in, Wakanda 5 minutes ago?
Not a raccoon. Okay.
He was. He was doing the, like I said on Twitter, he was doing the gun butt version of Frozen. Like my man spinning around, like, let it go, all kind of guns going off. Yes. But, let me slow down right there. Yeah.
Relax.
So anyway, he's speaking to Bucky and he's saying that Bucky is a killer still. But as we see by the direction, we cut to Sam reacting like, oh, because Sam is realizing that he's talking to him. He knows it. It's not even that he's talking to him. He already knows this. I can't just wake up one day and decide to be Cap. I'm black. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It don't work like that for me. It's not like that.
Lots of times we don't have that luxury, right? There's a few hurdles in the way to be able to have that luxury. And
I love how Bucky was saying that, the folks like you and Sam's like, oh, he didn't mean it like that. He's like, no,
right,
no.
Right. It's interesting because it's just, and I'm going to talk about Bucky later, but the way Bucky determines the true nature of what people say. So at least some white people, if someone said that to them, they would just automatically think, oh, because you're saying that because I'm white. Yes, nigga, we saying that because you're white. But Bucky doesn't think that at all. He's like, no, he actually means the part that because I'm Hydra. And Sam thought the other way. Sam thought Isaiah was saying that because he's white. So then with Bucky expressing that, this whole this mirror image of just messages itself of what people are trying to tell you also plays a part in how people just move in this series.
Yeah, and that's interesting because then later on, Bucky is just yet another clueless white. Well, 5 minutes before this, even Bucky was a clueless white man.
Which is, I have to question that approach, but it doesn't make quite sense. But we'll get into that.
But also, it does make a lot of sense because white people and people in general can be, see things in one way and then be completely blind to other instances.
It irritates me because it's just like on the one hand you have sense, and on the other hand you saying some dumb.
Look, Bucky just got woke 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? Like, this is a man from the 1940s who has been murdering people for 60 years.
But how he's been awakened, right? And
how long?
Deprogrammed. How long? Right. But I'm asking you, how long has it been since he's been deprogrammed?
Like 5 minutes, dog. Like,
you keep saying 5 minutes. How long for real?
No, for real. Okay, think about it. Winter Soldier happens, right?
Okay.
They go on the road for 2 years, as they say.
Okay.
He's in Wakanda sleep for most of those 2 years.
Facts. He's recovering.
Yep. Then they wake him up. They start, deprogramming him.
Yeah.
So
that's another part. Bucky got to go to Wakanda. He got to fucking sit there and
he got to come out of that hut glistening, boy.
I mean, for him, it's finna be a breeze. And then,
I was rewatching that scene, because last week I talked about what was in the hut. I just want to say, I seriously doubt Bucky could dress himself with one arm.
He would get over it. He's fine.
No, I'm just saying there was somebody else in that hut.
Stop. We're not talking about this hut situation.
He keep denying the white wolf. My man was being called the white wolf.
Because he was a loner, like
no, the
wolf.
kids knew. No. The wolf was ahead of a pack.
Stop it. We're not doing this.
The wolf was a hound.
Not a hound. Oh, God.
A dog, as they say. Atomic, even. Why must he be like that?
When speaking on the theme of identity and also that understanding of who this Star-Spangled Man is, what Captain America is, we gotta reflect again on John Walker. And we covered a lot of him already, where essentially we explain he's generally the bit of an overachiever. Mm-hmm. He's doing all this without having the super soldier abilities.
Yo, my man was slinging that shield, dog. Like, okay, now that
was wild to me. I was like, he could do that, but then Sam does it in the trailer. So I'm like, okay, I guess you can.
In the preview for the trailer, when Sam slings the shield, he gets stuck in the tree. While when this man's slinging the shield, it's bouncing off of things, right?
But it's bouncing. But I don't think it being stuck means anything.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think it might be a little subliminal here, right?
Really?
Because, all right, now, people are going to say I'm reaching here, but Isaiah throws something and it gets stuck. Sam throws something and it gets stuck. The white boy throws something and bounces. Because the black man
goes through.
Stuck.
It goes through. Really? Are you
and
really?
Bounces.
You sound like Dr. Umar.
Hey, listen, the black man gets stuck.
The black man gets stuck
in the imagery of being Captain America, of what comes with being Cap, the pain and the agony. While Teflon Don, John Walker, and Steve Rogers over here, it's just right. You know what I mean? All good and well. I'm just saying. And another thing I want to say is that John threw that shield up under Bucky way too smooth when he gets knocked off the thing.
He threw it under Lamar.
I do not believe that
that he would have been able to save Lamar like that.
I just think that John might already have powers.
Well, and that's questionable. I don't know if he does, especially and okay, we don't know.
But there's two ways that this could go, and we'll get into that as we get into our theories.
And the only reason why I'm saying we don't know, especially because this hasn't officially been revealed, but it's also because the way, again, thank you to the director, the way those shots were framed, for me, during that scene, that fight on the trucks, I can see John not struggling, but putting effort into it. Captain America could throw himself up with his pinky finger off the edge of a
moving truck
trailer. So,
but John
had to try.
He jumps down from a helicopter onto the truck.
Yeah,
while
so what?
Battlestar had to swing down.
Battlestar didn't have to swing that. Battlestar chose to because he used that momentum to kick another person off the truck.
Okay, all right.
And they weren't that high. My whole point is that my only point
That's still a tough move.
The only point before BenHaMeen says that's the black man's plight, they gotta swing in. Like before you start saying all that.
I'm just saying he ain't got no power.
No, I know. I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing with you. But no, my only point is that I just felt like, at least the way the scenes were framed, it seemed like John had to put in actual effort. Like, yes, he's an exceptional human in general, and he's a bit stronger than a lot of people, but I don't think quite super soldier yet.
Yep.
I just didn't feel it. But to your point, he might be playing Jack off of The Incredibles, where he's acting like he's not that strong, but he really is. Who knows? I don't know.
I had to think about that.
Yeah, little boy Jack.
Since we're talking about this truck scene, which first of all, fire. Oh my God, fire. Like the action, once again, this show is on point with this action. I rewatched that during several times. But there's
really good, yeah.
Really great. Like Bucky sliding down the side, my man trying to stomp him off, and then Falcon coming through with the save and grabbing Buck like that. Oh, that shit was so sweet. But there's been a lot of pushback online of John Walker pulling out the gat and busting.
I want to add to that. I didn't like that vibe.
Okay.
Something, and I get it. He's a soldier. That just makes sense. He's not a super soldier, so he has to rely on conventional puny man weapons like a gun. I get it, but it didn't feel right to me.
Okay. In Captain America First Avenger, while he's at war, he is busting away.
Because that's in the beginning. That's in the beginning.
In the Avengers, when Hydra invades the helicarrier, Cap grabs one of their guns and busts them down.
He busts
with the gat. Go watch it. Shoots with the it looks like the AR-15. Like look like he about to be a mass shooter out here. You know what I mean? Like white man with a gun. Gotta worry about him.
I don't recall Cap pulling out the Draco, but okay.
He got the Draco in Avengers, and okay. Then what really kills me about this is the weird morality, right? Super Soldier Cap is seen kicking people into turbines.
Because they deserve it.
He kicks another man off the helicarrier, which is that's one of my favorites. Is when he kicks this dude and the dude goes and goes flying away from the helicarrier. Like it's so good, but. He murders people in all kind of inventive ways, you know, and he's a super soldier, so it's like an unfair fight already. So the gun
is it unfair when, especially if you're fighting aliens? Is it really unfair?
No,
aliens
but sometimes he's not fighting aliens.
Yeah,
he's fighting mad dudes.
Sometimes he's fighting a regular nigga, but so
he
what?
kicked a dude into this turbine.
He asked for it. I'm going to defend him. And I know what you're saying. You're saying that it's cloudy morality because Cap is doing this, but no one says nothing about it. But John does it, and it's a problem.
John pulls out a gun.
But you know why? Because I don't like that nigga John.
I know. There is a lot of hate towards John, and there's a lot of heat coming up off that couch right now. And I'm here to defend Team Walk It Out.
Oh God, here we go again, yo.
Yep. Look. It was up until the last line of the show. I was all the way Team Walk It Out. And then I was like, oh my God, these writers, what are they doing?
It's on purpose, but I get it.
I know, so goofy.
Yeah. Oh. John Walker, when it comes to his identity and his personality, which is also a contrast to Bucky and Sam. Bucky and Sam still seem to be, at least now, especially now at post-Blip, and Sam at first not wanting to take the mantle. They're still trying to find themselves. Mm-hmm. They're still trying to find their place in the world. Whereas John, even though he's building up to this legacy, he still seems to know who he is. Like he knows he's his own man. He knows he's done the work. He even says as much. He wants to. He fervently wants to be Captain America, the mantle. And he also said that he's not here to replace Steve. And at least initially, he respects Steve's legacy. And he's trying to be his own version of things. But also in my head, and also this is also derived a bit from the comics. Is he in some ways jealous? Does he feel that he's better than Steve? Is he trying to live up to a certain hype?
I think so. I don't think he feels like he's better than Steve, especially in the MCU. In the comics, yes. But even that, I felt like in the comics, it's bluster. It's a lot of like, he feels like he's better than Steve until he realizes what Steve was doing. And then like in the comics, like I said, as soon as he got on the shield to shoot, he was like, oh my God, I'll never be this dude, Yeah. It was like an immediate reaction. And I think our John, in the MCU at least, is still trying to find himself as well. I think all these characters are trying to find themselves. And John is trying to find, like, can he live up to this?
Yeah.
And he's reaching and flailing. He's reaching out for help throughout this episode. He's like, yo, we could be better together. And he doesn't know how to talk to people. Like I say, he's But that, it was once again, it's these white people who are blind in one way, wide awake in one way and then blind in another. Because when he says these last lines like, "Oh, you ain't nothing but a sidekick to Sam," it's like, damn. But 5 minutes before that, he's shown that he thinks of Lamar as his equal. They work together. He's down with them. So it's not
Does he think of Lamar as his equal? How did you come up with that? Like, maybe you just have to feel that. How do you know?
Yeah, they do a fist bump.
So what?
Like,
so what? You do a fist bump with your sidekick all the time. Like, that don't mean nothing.
No, man. They practice that out. LeBron James don't do the intricate handshakes for every player. You know what I mean? Like, no.
That's intricate. A fist bump is not intricate.
Look, for that white man it was. That was... Look,
Stop it.
Don't act like that comes easy. You know what I mean?
Stop it, Wanda. Oh, man.
Yeah, no, I do not think that John is, looks at Lamar less than him. He's married to a black woman. You know what I mean? I'm not, and so far,
John,
that
don't mean nothing.
I know, but let's stop it there. So far, John has not shown those tendencies to me.
That's fine, but I'm just saying, let's not equate being married to a black person meaning you understand or even care about the black experience. That means absolutely nothing.
But so far, John has not shown those tendencies. And since we mentioned it, can we just talk about that last line? Because like I say, I felt like John was so good, throughout this episode. They, so nuanced. And then it wasn't even that he tells them, "Stay out of my way," which, I understand. It's how he delivers the line, how the music hits in. Because if he just like, all right, then, maybe y'all, we'll stay out of each other's way then, keep it moving.
Then even before he said that line, I just felt a very sinister energy coming from John.
Really?
Why I don't like I feel energies of people, and I understand people's like, "Oh, this is a TV show, it's fictional." Something ain't right, something ain't clean in the milk. I'm telling you, there's something just strange, sinister about this guy.
No, I feel that energy.
I don't trust him.
I feel the energy of a white man who's had everything handed to him. That's the energy I keep getting from John. Like where even though like not handed and like I said, where he didn't have to work hard, but where things just keep happening for him, and he's never had that pushback. I definitely get that energy from John.
Okay.
That.
And to me, that's sinister because that always leads to some extra shit.
Yes. True indeed. And like I say, that's why I'm already saying that, I'm already telling y'all, I know that John is probably going, especially with that. And that's what I feel like they didn't need that last line. Like you said, you already get the vibe from dude. But with that last line, it just made it where it's like, no, this guy is evil. Stay out of my way. It was the killmongering. That's what I keep talking about. It's these killmongering of these characters.
Yeah.
It's the Hayward shooting at kids. It's Killmonger choking the grandmother in the herb garden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stay out of my way. Like all episode, he's
Get
like,
off
"Yo,
my lawn.
I idolize y'all. You're the man, dude. You and Steve. And he would have looked up to Falcon just like this is Steve's partner, so he's gonna look up to him. Up until that point, though, when Falcon turned against the military again. So he's gonna be like, all right, but even then he'd be like, "Yo, this dude saved the universe. He's awesome. I wish we would team up. This is great." And then suddenly, "Stay out of my way." It's like, what?
What is he, Batman now?
Yeah, where did that come from? Fast,
where did that voice come from?
But that's how he did it. It was just like Batman. It's like Bruce Wayne, talks normally, and then, justice will be served.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's
relax, dude. It's fine.
Like, chill out, dog. We all know you're Bruce Wayne. You don't need to talk in that voice. You know what I mean? Martha, it's like, all right, dude. We can see the black eye paint, right? You wear makeup, Bruce. It's relax.
The last theme that I wanted to get into is regarding something you said last week when you said the show is very black, and really in just terms of, at least from in one frame or one lens of it, some asterisks, some of the black experience that, particularly Black American experience that goes on. We mentioned, obviously, that HBCUS ban and all that stuff happening, and very brown audience that was there. Could just be because of locale, could be a million other reasons. But also just reminding me of the fact of how Black culture is so ingrained and assimilated and codified into American culture, and really commodified, because what's that other line where they say, you love my culture, but you hate me, or you don't love me? Like, you love being Black, but you don't want to be Black? Like,
everybody wants to be until it's time to be
right, Paul Mooney. So it's just that just kept reminding me of that, and it also reminded me of what I said last week when I made the comment about early in the beginning of last week's episode, when I made the comment about Black Panther not necessarily being a Black movie, it was clearly deeply informed and shaped by the experience of Black people across the diaspora when you're talking about the writing, the direction, and all the people involved in it, and obviously the actors and the story itself. But would you go, oh, let's go see the Black movie Black Panther? No, let's go see that Marvel movie Black Panther, right?
Wow.
And that same or a similar example is used in this episode too, where they land in Baltimore, and as they're walking up, a kid refers to Sam as Black Falcon. Mm-hmm. And Sam corrects him and says, it's just Falcon. And actually asks him, why would you call me that? And the kid's like, my dad said that. But the point is that Sam's trying to make is, you don't need this modifier in front of my title or what I do or what I am. I'm just this person. Like, I'm not a Black firefighter. I'm a firefighter. And I'm not the Black president. I'm a president.
And then, well, I mean, he is the Black president because, we only got one.
Right. Stop jinxing it, Ben. But
so far. That's what I mean right now.
And also, this is only one side of the argument because there's the flip side of this argument as well. But I'm just coining this as kind of this Black redundancy issue, right? Like when Black people do anything similar to non-Black people, or they reach some level of success, they're referred to that as the Black version of something, like that term Black Bill Gates.
Yep.
Or as we see here, when the characters take on the mantle of something of a mantle that was previously held by a white person or a non-Black person, they're referred to as the Black whatever. In this case, Black Captain America or Black Falcon.
Yes. But then also Sam flips it and does the same thing to Bucky when he calls him the White Panther.
But he was playing with him. He was joking. The kid was dead ass like, oh, that's Black Falcon, like that, as if that was his real name.
I mean, them kids in Wakanda were dead ass when they called him White Wolf too. But they're like, we got Black wolves and you the white one.
But it doesn't work like that, right? When we're talking about, and then again, I'm going to keep it just to America, but when we're talking about, when we say a man, really, and maybe it's different for the generation growing up now, but typically when someone says draw a man on paper, they automatically assume it's a white guy. That's considered the default as we say that, right? When you create a character in a game, what is the default? A white person. Not all games, but a lot of games, it's a white and white man specifically, not even a woman, a white man. Yeah. Then maybe the woman comes next, and then go on and so forth.
Yeah.
And another example, just to bring it on home, another example that I see all the time in our community of 4L Nerds fam is our community of incredible cosplayers who happen to be Black. And they talk about this on a consistent basis because it keeps happening. This disdain sometimes for being called the Black version of the character that they're dressing as. So, for example, if you're cosplaying as Goku or Sailor Moon or Naruto, whatever, people call you Black Goku or Black Naruto. And it sounds stupid when you really think about it. Like, no, bro, I'm cosplaying as Naruto. I'm just Naruto. I'm just Sasuke.
And it's funny because nobody's gonna be like yellow, something to someone else. Yeah,
But also,
or red.
No one's gonna say white Naruto because technically Naruto's Japanese. He's not even white.
Yep.
So,
but no one ain't that the blonde hair boy?
In most anime, the default is that they're actually Japanese. They may present white. They they might have blue eyes and all this other stuff. But
that boy present white as fuck.
But the automatic assumption that typically is made, and again, there are nuances, but it's typically made is that they're Japanese, or that's supposed to be the assumption. A lot of people, but particularly in America, just say, oh, they're white.
I swear to God, I thought Naruto meant white ninja.
Naruto's actually... It's actually, and just like Goku, they're actually names of food in Japanese culture. It's that if you eat ramen, that little white egg that has a little pink swirl in the middle. I think that's Naruto, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, that
I want to look that up real quick.
That is on brand if it is.
Yeah.
The white egg with the pink swirl in the middle, that's that little ninja boy.
Naruto food. Yeah, I was right. It's the I just looked it up real quick. Yeah, it's that it's a food item at the end of the day, right? So and again, it all goes back to Japanese culture. Goku, I think it's like rice or something like that. Like all of these names was really just stuff that harkens back to Japanese culture. But anyway, that's my point, right? That you can argue, people can argue to say, well, I'm just making a distinction between, for example, if he's Captain America and he's Black Captain America, yeah. But it's also an unnecessary modifier, and it really others that individual because you try to separate them from the mainstream of what is acceptable. So again, saying that, oh, that's Black Wonder Woman cosplayer, or that's Black Wonder Woman. Like, no, she's just Wonder Woman. She's cosplaying as Wonder Woman. That's it. And it does matter. And maybe not all cosplayers have that approach, but a lot that I've talked to just from day-to-day interactions, they express that it's wild to them. And Sam, as you mentioned, he tried to show the absurdity of that approach. Like, you're calling me that because I'm black and the Falcon? So what are you, black kid? No, you're just a kid that happens to be black.
Mm-hmm. But you also bring up the point about what about people
the flip
who
side.
want, what about people who want to be black comic book writer, black hero to amplify their blackness and their pride?
Right. And I understand that too, because it's also, you want to particularly fuck with people who are fragile about it, like fragile whiteness, stuff like that. Like, yeah, I'm black and what? Or you're gonna understand that I'm black. I'm gonna make you know that I'm black, and that's also noble to a degree as well. You can go that way. I also just understand the approach to that modifier, putting that modifier black in front of a name.
Yeah, I always used to, one of my favorite gradients for people is what up, black.
Like we joke about it and stuff on the show. One of your AKAs is Black Goliath. Because, like, why is he called Black Goliath and just Goliath? And this is a Marvel character, y'all, old school Marvel character. He's he was like the original Ant-Man. Like, why? Because there
was already a Goliath. And
he was already a Goliath. Why he has to be Black Goliath?
Because there already was a Goliath, so they needed a way to tell them apart. Like, there's Black Goliath, like couldn't give him an original name or anything. No,
Would they call him Asian Goliath? Like,
no,
so
I mean, to make it even worse, Hank Pym wasn't even using the Goliath name at the time anymore.
So what? So what was the reason? What was the reason?
What was the reason?
What was the reason?
Because Black Goliath is an awesome name. Like,
it's
real.
Funny.
Yeah, it's a great name, Black Goliath. Like, that's a dope name.
And finally, in this theme, I just mentioned that this show gives you some of the commentary of the Black experience in America, that racial, social commentary that I'm actually kind of tired of seeing. I'm so tired. I understand. Again, this was filmed a while ago and stuff, but I'm so tired.
Yeah, that begs the question. Like, is this show gonna have its racial moment of the week every week?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be very honest. I wasn't really feeling that whole the police scene.
Yeah, I wasn't
I'm like,
either.
it just came out of nowhere to me. Now, not to say, yes, I've been in Baltimore. I have my people in Baltimore. Like, yes, in certain areas they are just there.
Now,
but it was just weird how it happened.
It was weird how it happened, but at the same time, let me tell you, like, I think I've talked about this on For All Nerds, and like, growing up, I grew up in the hood. I grew up in 3rd Ward, Houston, Texas, right?
Yes.
But I had a lot of white friends who lived all over the city in different places. One of them lived in an area, Westheimer, near the Galleria. People who know Houston. So at the time, and I think to this day, it was still mainly a white, residential area around there. We are walking, me and a group of my friends, we're all in high school at this point. We're walking from one of their houses to another one of their houses. It's like 5-10 blocks, who knows? Not even that much. And, it's like me, one black dude, and maybe like 5, 6, 7 white guys.
Okay.
All of us walking down the block at night. Cop car pulls up. We are in a white neighborhood again. We're not even in the hood where there's a lot of cops. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We're in a white neighborhood where it was strange to me that there was even a cop driving down
Did
the
they
street.
just materialize out the ether?
Yeah, basically just materialized out of there. WandaVision. Here comes Eastview. And so this cop pulls up on us, pops the searchlight on us. Bright, blinding light, hops out the car. I'm not sure if he had the hand on the gun or whatever, but hops out the car and is like, yo, is this guy bothering y'all? Like, there's like 7 of them, fam. These are my best friends. Some of them I've known one of them I've known since I was in kindergarten. And they're like, is this guy bothering y'all? All kind of stuff like that. So while this was strange to me and a little,
it was also familiar.
It was very familiar. Way too familiar. Like I say, it was like 6 or 7 of them. They could have been lynching me for all this guy knows. Right. And not, no concern for them. It was, all the concern for them, none for me.
Right. Is this guy bothering me? And that's what happens in this scene with Bucky and Sam when they're arguing in the street. Again, I wasn't really feeling it like that.
I wasn't either.
And then, like you said, it just felt like very racial lesson of the week.
But I'll also say I think it's a problem with the structure of this episode because you have the black kid moment, which is a great little, anecdote.
Like, I think that was enough,
right?
And then you have Isaiah,
and then you have this scene all back to back, so you don't even get the time to live and feel the Isaiah stuff like you should because it's interrupted by this scene. So I felt like yes, and hopefully going forward, even though things happen to black people with regularity in America, it's not like every day is terrible either. And well, I mean, yes, it is.
I'm about to say,
it depends on how much you think, but like, and
it depends on your personal circumstance
personally,
as well.
Yeah, it's probably not, and
maybe for you, it doesn't feel like that, and that's fine.
Yes, true indeed. For some people, it is terrible, but for some white people, America is terrible every day because America's a terrible ass country. You know what I mean? And that's what people fail to realize. Like, we talk about this thing about blackness and whiteness and what it means in America. It's like, it's not that you're like, that's like, it's not that other people can't have struggle. It's not that John Walker doesn't have struggle. But if John Walker was black, there'd be an extra layer to that struggle.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the concept of all these layers when it comes to, in America anyway, the black experience is also why, and you said it already, like there was already all of these other preceding moments. And it's like, we had to put this on, this is the cherry on top.
Yeah. And
also the layers of it. All of this is taking place in Baltimore, Maryland, which has lots of implications. Particularly, when Isaiah was talking, it reminded me of many things. It reminded me, number one, of Henrietta Lacks. And for those who don't know who Henrietta Lacks is, she basically damn near every vaccine and anything you've taken, the entire biomedical research industry, the billions and billions of dollars within this industry is all due to her and her cells. She is a black woman who died back in 1951. Her cancer cells were harvested without her consent for research and used for experimentation, things like that to this day. All through to this day. Her cells are responsible for over 17,000 patents to help develop things like vaccines, IVF treatments, etc. And no credit was really ever given to her for decades. And her family wasn't even informed that her cells were taken until 20 years after her death. The family also had largely received no compensation. I know in 2020 that there was a major biomedical organization that actually tried to give them financial reparations. I don't know how much money they tried to give them, but they did. And everything Isaiah was telling me just reminded me also of the ongoing experimentation against black people. You think about the Tuskegee Airmen. And the experimentation on black and brown soldiers during World War II. Like, it's just so many layers of that. And all of these life histories and lessons and all this stuff. And then you got to add on, well, here come the police. It's just, and maybe, I don't know, maybe that was the writer's point. Like, they was like, and on top of all of this stuff, look what Sam got to deal with now. But to me, it was just too much.
Yeah, I think it was too much. And it was also because the scene is really about getting Bucky arrested so that they can, meet up with
y'all could have arrested him in a different way.
Yeah, or there just could have been anyway. And I just thought it was too much. And also, since you were mentioning Henrietta Lacks, we also had to mention, it just goes on and on in American history. And that's something that, like, I even had a talk with someone on Twitter the other day because they were like, oh, this moment in American history is like, paramount to a race war. And I'm like, any moment in American history could be, basically there's a race war going on.
Yeah.
There's a war, the toxic whiteness is perpetrating a war on everything else constantly in history and especially in American history. But 60,000 American soldiers were involved in a secret chemical weapons testing program during World War II, where the U.S. Department conducted tests based on the race of them. This is, of course, black, Japanese, and Puerto Rican soldiers. They were locked in a gas chamber and exposed to chemicals like mustard gas.
Oh, my God.
Right? 60,000. In the 1990s, this is even recent, like in the 1990s, children in Los Angeles were exposed to a vaccine for measles that was known to be, not right. On and on. And here's another one. In the 1950s, the CIA and the U.S. military released 500,000 mosquitoes with yellow and Denang fever, I think it is, into the Black Florida communities, leading to multiple illnesses and deaths. The government wanted to assess the use of mosquitoes as military weapons. My family was in Florida in the 1950s. That's where all my family is from.
That's wild. And to think the genetic implications that get passed down to the children.
In the 1990s, children in Los Angeles were injected with an experimental measles vaccine unapproved by the FDA and one which had developed a bad reputation for increasing high death rates in Haiti, Guinea, and Senegal.
It just keeps happening.
Over and over. Again, between 2006 and 2010, 148 female prisoners in 2 California prisons, the majority Black and Latino, were sterilized without their consent.
And even though this is the last theme, just of just expressing like the things that the commentary on some of the Black experiences also goes back to our mirror theme, because this when he gets pulled over by the cops, it's also essentially like that banker scene in the first episode where you have all that the underlying racism under it, to be quite honest. And when the cop is ready to cart him off, and he's like, and then they like, oh yo, his man's whispers to him, yo, that's an Avenger. Oh, I didn't recognize you without the goggles. It's just like, oh my God, like I didn't recognize you without the basketball.
Yep.
Jamal, like
Thank you for pointing that out.
Like, yeah, like it's just like, well, what do you mean? Like, it's just typical. And even Bucky gets very typical in that scene where he does when the cops are like, give me an ID, and Sam's like, I ain't got an ID, and Bucky's like, just give him the ID. And I'm like, Bucky, no. Like that's the time where you got to be like Rose and get out. He don't need to show his ID.
Yeah.
I remember her crazy self.
Yeah.
Her wild self. Maybe not say crazy, but her wild self.
What about Allison?
Right. I love you, Allison. But also, Bucky, when he says, do you know who this is? When he's talking, he's pointing the Falcon. And I'm like, but to me, it's just indicative of whiteness. It doesn't matter who this is. It's absurd that you're stopping us in the street. It's absurd that you're talking to this random Black man saying to this white man, is this Black guy bothering you? Just on his face. Forget the reasons. Forget what's happening. Why is this happening?
Yep.
This doesn't make sense. And it just goes to show you that idea of I comically said, you just a nigga in a super suit, like just like the Kanye. Just because you're in the bench, you're still a nigga in a coupe. Being someone when you're Black doesn't necessarily trump being Black, and doesn't go over the systems that are actively working against us in America. Like, if a cop recognizes you as an athlete or a person that matters, now you get a pass. And also, half the time that shit don't even work.
No, they have to recognize you. That's what it is. Like you say, if you don't have a basketball in your hand, then that shit ain't gonna work. You just a tall, This
Negro. Isn't basketball, J-Rock. It's wild. And you see that. I use an example here of Masai Ujiri. Well, he's the president of the Raptors. I'm not sure if he's still the president, but he was the president when they won the championship last year. And that was wild.
2 years ago, Lakers.
2 years. He got stopped. Like, he was going to go on the court to go celebrate with the rest of the team because they won. And the cops stopped him and they shoved him when he was trying to show his credentials. Like, well, someone could say, well, show your ID, show your credentials. He was trying to, and they shoved him. Why would they treat him like that? And Masai fervently believed, and I also believe him, that it was because it was due to race. And Masai even said, what saddens me the most about his ordeal is that the only reason why I'm getting the justice I deserve in this moment is because of my success.
Yeah.
You see that with Sam Falcon, right? Oh, you're Avenger. Oh, he saved the world. Let's leave him alone.
And that's something that I feel like I've seen certain reviewers say that they treat Bucky differently. Like when they're arresting him, they're like, "Oh, Mr. Barnes."
Well, they called him Mr. Wilson once they realized who he was.
I want to point that out because I've seen people like, "Oh, they said something." Yeah. No. Once they realize who Sam is, he becomes a different Negro to them.
Right, but that's the part
it's Mr. Wilson.
But that's the part about the system that's broken.
Yes.
You shouldn't have to recognize my humanity first, right?
No.
Don't recognize what I did or what I could do for you, or I'm a success or this or that. Recognize me as a person and give me my respect first.
And let me also point that out, and that's a problem that that I always talk about, once again, going back to the Black Panthers. That's what they were trying to let people know. The system is going to treat you like a Negro Indian no matter what your skin color is. They're going to go for the Negroes first, but if you're a poor-ass white, it ain't no Mr. Barnes either. If he wasn't an Avenger right then, they would have grabbed up Sam, and then if Bucky had kept bucking up, they would have grabbed his ass up too, because, you still just another dude at the end, and they aren't. They might have let white man go, but because they was a little worried about him and shit, so they probably would have just arrested Sam and taken him. But Bucky wouldn't have had that. That's the other thing. Bucky would have tried to fight them, and then Bucky or Sam would have gotten shot. it would have ended all bad. And that's what Sam is trying to prevent. Because Sam knows he can buck up and fuck these two cops up if he wants. He knows Bucky can too. But all that's going to do is bring more cops to that hood.
And also, why would you, this is not a fighting moment. There's no reason to fight this moment. Like, if anything, Sam was irritated, and I would be too. Like, what the fuck do you want?
Yeah.
Mind your business.
Bucky would have fucked them cops up if they tried to arrest him.
Bucky about that action. That's why I fucks with Bucky. He's about that action. So.
But see, that would have been a problem because let's say, they got arrested and then Bucky fights them, then, more cops come to that neighborhood when they ain't there.
Right. And we'll talk about the characterization of Bucky as we go along. It just, his reaction there and the way he is, I love him because he's always about that action, but then he's doing dumb stuff, which is also maybe naive. It's that kind of naive whiteness about, just give them your ID.
He has not been around very long. You know what I mean? That's the thing.
Right.
And instead of being like, Steve, going and listening to Marvin Gaye, what's going on, catching up on what's happening, Bucky is out here trying to make amends for other shit he done. He's still stuck in the past. He's not learning about what's happening in the current time.
But also when he lived, especially during the time when he lived, that was super duper prevalent. So that he's not learned from that either.
No, because why would he? Because at the time, Bucky might have benefited. Like, let's stop giving these dudes the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? Like, they are still white dudes. Like, he's gonna benefit from that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
He might not be all the way, where he's supporting it, but he's not gonna fight against it. Not outright, not then. You got to get woke to get there. Bucky ain't get woke. He went to war.
And after all that bullshit with the cops, it's Bucky who ends up getting arrested because he ain't show up to his PO. He ain't show up for therapy, bro.
Yeah.
After all that. All right. That is the end of our themes. We have our new section, which is questions that need answers. And
say like, questions that need answers.
There you go. My question is, some of this is funny. Why doesn't Bucky trust Red Wing? It's just a drone. And as we said on WandaVision, what happened to all drones matter?
Drones. Yo, I need a team up now. We got Drone from WandaVision. We got Red Wing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got a whole show of Drone. Like I keep telling y'all, Drone the series.
He has a very contentious relationship with this troll, but I'm thinking just because it's an extension of Sam. And it's just like, Sam just aggravates him. And he's just like, get the fuck away from me.
But nobody else with Red Wing. Black Widow in the movie wasn't really feeling Red Wing. She's like,
it's just a drone that's helping you, and
it's
it's okay, whatever. I don't know what his problem.
I don't like drones either, so I'm down. Yeah, whatever.
Okay, well then again,
but I do want my drone
person.
show. Drone on Disney Plus.
Drone. Drones talk about their problems. They go to therapy.
Drones can solve problems. These drones are some problem solvers.
Oh, gosh.
The WandaVision drone, WandaVision drone got power, boy.
I think there'll be a little lack of personality, just saying.
Hey, we can work on that.
Okay. The next questions that need answers, we talked to, or really is kind of answered for us. What is the big three?
Yep.
Sam makes this question, or rather, statement. Sam says it statement, and Bucky asks, what the hell is that? They say androids, aliens, and wizards, because those are the types of enemies that they fight every time they have to scrap. Bucky says there's no such thing as wizards. I thought it was hilarious that he mentioned Gandalf, because he actually read The Hobbit when it came back in 1937. And then we have this hilarious quip about Doctor Strange being a sorcerer.
Yep. And also, Bucky read The Hobbit in 1937, but it was only released in 1937 in Europe.
Wasn't he in Europe?
No, not at that point. Bucky is just that big of a dork. that my man got the copy.
He's that big of a nerd.
Sent to him in 1937. No, because he was not in Europe yet, but Bucky was determined.
Got it.
Also, the alien androids and wizards refers to Ultron, Thanos, and Loki, because those are the three big threats of the film.
Those are the big original three, yeah.
Yeah, and those are what, they have seen so far. So pretty soon they got to make it a bit 4 and add time travelers when Kane shows up.
Yo.
I think Galactus gonna fall under aliens.
World
so
eaters,
that's still gonna work.
Yeah.
I think that's still aliens.
How do you feel about Sam's comment that sorcerers are wizards without hats?
Oh, that was great.
You agree with him? I agree with him.
I also love that, like I said, that John Walker and them. All right, now I'm not sure if this is because John and them are spying on them through Red Wing.
Which was, but then it makes sense, right? Like,
or is this just a general thing among superheroes right now that, everybody talks about the big three, aliens, androids, and wizards. Like, that's just what, they all, even the world, like the world would know that's that's like the big three that's attacked. Like, which is once again going back to the ridiculousness of the MCU for the average person. Like, could you imagine being like, yo, what about the big three though? You know, you just walking down the street, you know, yo, remember when Loki attacked New York and then Thanos erased half of the universe? And remember that time Ultron dropped a city? Like,
or what if you're a kid and you're like,
yes!
Mom, there's an attack on New York. And she's like, is it androids, aliens, or wizards? Like that's the qualifier you ask your child.
Like, is there like, you know, when they have like, what is it? Disaster drills where they have one for aliens, one for androids, and one for wizards. You know,
gonna die. You gonna die.
Basically on all three of them, you done. You know, if they anywhere within a mile, you done.
You got $1 billion suit, you got powers, then you gonna die.
If it's aliens, you might as well kiss your ass goodbye because $500 million of y'all going, you know, no, it's tight. Yeah.
And then finally, in the questions I need answers section, who is in power right now in the world? Because, and this is also what predicates the creation of the Flag Smashers as a group. Carly Morgenthau, who's a leader, she says at some point in the show, we can't let the same assholes who were put back in power after the blip win. The GRC, which is the Global Repatriation Council, they care more about the people who came back than the ones who never left. Now, I've expressed how I think it's very smart of shows like this to show the impact of the blip to the regular people, the regular populace. Yes, people who may have superpowers as well, but also, what about you and me, Ben? What happens to you and me? Like, if it's you and me and one of us gets blipped, how do our lives are impacted? And then 5 years later, when one of us comes back, then what? How do you deal with that? And so that makes you think about the power imbalance, the governance imbalance in the world after the blip. Like, imagine like you live in a country where it's horrible because it's ran by a dictator and all this other stuff. Life is horrible. The blip happens, that dictator gets out the paint, and some other people come in who are actually helpful towards your life. They're building stuff up. Then people return, and everyone's trying to put back to stuff to the way they was. How would you feel? Would you become part of the Flag Smashers? Like, yo, life was actually good when your ass was gone, and now y'all trying to put shit back to the way it was?
And there are also, like, you know, people who would believe that because half of the people, you know, less stress on the environment, all that type of thing.
The Thanos effect,
The Thanos effect, that this was a good thing.
Yeah. And they have that tagline, the Flag Smashers have that tagline, one world, one people. And they themselves very multicultural. Their logo is a handprint with the globe, the world in the center with like Pangea, which is, you know, like one landmass and everyone together. And like I said, I understand why people be part of this group. Like, if shit was sweet for you during the blip and then they try to push shit back to the way it was, that's not right.
Mm-hmm. And another thing about them that I really like that we see is how they care for each other. Like how the Flag Smashers are generally concerned when Cap shoots one of them, when the other one volunteers to hold off the Power Broker's men. You know, Shorty is really like, damn.
Because she know that was the end for him.
Yeah, basically. And it contrasts with the way we see Batroc treat his men in the last episode, how they're disposable, you know, how people just get murked off and nobody seems to care about them. But this is also the Flag Smashers, you know, in this episode, they go and they find a safe house where a dude and his wife have cooked food. You know, they got coffee. They believe in them. You know, so this is a movement. Even Sam, you know, when he's speaking to John in the Jeep, reflects some of their ideology. Like, he starts talking about like, yo, you know, maybe it's not, you know, always the way it should be. And things, you know, when it's bad for one people, it's bad for, you know, it's not always, you know, things aren't bad for other people. Like, so they have, once again, these villains are being very nuanced. There's a lot to them.
And I like that. And they were stealing vaccines to deliver to refugees.
And like Bucky said, there's mad refugee camps around the world right now. Like, maybe they're helping out, you know?
Again, it's all about how you go about things, right?
Yep.
And also, is it quite wrong? And they mentioned the idea of the Global Repatriation Council, who, as we learn, is responsible for essentially mending some of the issues of the world post-split by providing resources, or this is what John says. So they do things like reactivate citizenship, Social Security, healthcare for people displaced by the return of billions of people. And you got to know that in all systems, people fall through the cracks. Yep. And that's, to me, where the Flag Smashers come into play.
And the GRC might be headed up by the character Thunderbolt Ross, who we see in the end credits. His name shows up in the end credits. And for those who remember, Thunderbolt Ross first showed up in the Hulk movie, and people thought he was, non-canon until he shows up when they're trying to get the Avengers to sign the Sokovia Accords. And Thunderbolt Ross in the comics is a leader of the team, the Thunderbolts, who are basically a bunch of villains who take over at one point for the Avengers when the Avengers are outlawed. And so there's been rumors that we might get a Thunderbolt series, and the Thunderbolt, like we said, he's in the credits, so he might show up here in this series. So, U.S. Agent might be a part of that team. We'll see what happens.
We shall see. This leads us into getting into some more character information or character definition. We've spoken quite a lot about Isaiah Bradley already. And I just wanted to make this point. Like, just imagine if the government didn't do Isaiah dirty like that. Could you imagine, like, if he was able, first of all, if it wasn't a secret and he was able to, like, really craft his legacy even further? What if Sam Wilson had the mentorship and, like, was able to have the tutelage of Isaiah Bradley?
And that's
Black Captain America. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because even in the comics, like, all the black characters know about. It's the white Captain America who doesn't know about Isaiah. Like, they know and are friends with him. There's a shot. It's one of the most beautiful shots in the Red, White, and Black when White Cap comes to his house when he finally finds out about him and comes to the house and meets his wife and meets his children and looks on the wall, and it's like Isaiah with Prince, Isaiah with Marvin Gaye, Isaiah with Alex Haley, Isaiah with Malcolm X. Isaiah with Stan Lee, Isaiah with just all these different luminaries, mainly black luminaries. And it's just so dope because Cap is in there like, damn, I ain't know. But all the people who needed to know knew. Yeah.
And other thing you need to know, big time salutes to Carl Lumbly, who actually plays
the man.
Isaiah Bradley. Yes, he is the man. He, whether you know or not, that includes myself and everybody listening, he may have been part of your childhood at some point, because this man's resume is so extensive and is deep, especially deep in the comic book superhero realm. He's played Black Panther, or he was in the Black Panther TV miniseries. He played a different character, but he was in that miniseries back in 2010. He's played in Justice League numerous times, including Justice League Unlimited, numerous animations. He played Martian Manhunter. He was the voice of Martian Manhunter.
That smooth ass voice, boy.
In Supergirl, he played Martian Manhunter's father. Obviously, he's playing Isaiah Bradley, who is the man, but also he's been voicing in tons of games, tons of shows that are within and around geekdom. He was in Alias, apparently. He was in Static Shock as Martin Manhunter again. Like, he was in the Wild
So he was Martin
Thornberrys.
Manhunter all through JLU, all that?
Yes!
Oh, man, he did such a great job.
His name just keeps coming up.
He was iconic as Martian Manhunter.
He was randomly a mayor in Superman the Animated Series. So, like, he even he's crossing lines in terms of DC and Marvel. So he probably, especially if you're a millennial, he's probably been part of your childhood. But it's just incredible everything he's done. So I just want to make sure everyone knew that about this man, Carl. Also, with Falcon, Sam Wilson, as we've been saying, he seems like he's just out here trying to function. And at least just on his head, on the surface, he seems a little bit non-committal to responsibilities and the stuff that he didn't ask to have when he was given the mantle of Cap. But also, you had another point to make about this, Ben.
Yeah, I think he wants to be Cap. He idolizes Steve and wants to live up to what he thinks he is. But he just feels that as a black man, he just can't do that. And at the same time, he knows that doing that will take him away from what he just came back to after 5 years. His sister, his nephews, his friends, his family. Being Cap is a whole lot of responsibilities that make that impossible to live that same life. And he still thinks he can live that life. Wow. Nah, I doubt it, fam.
I doubt it, fam.
Yeah.
We are also got to move on to the Winter Soldier, a.k.a. Bucky Barnes, a.k.a. the White Panther, if you're Sam chiding him, or the White Wolf, as he's known in Wakanda. And the fact that this really broken kind of relationship he has with Sam, like very poor communication skills, and just the things that make not Sam, but the things that make Bucky irritated is kind of nonsensical at times. Like when Sam calls him Buck, And I get it, but I don't. But he feels like Sam don't know him like that. He has no right to call him Bucky, but it's also, or Buck rather. But it's like, Sam's the only dude that's in your corner right now. Their incongruent strategy and approaches to especially like how they argued over how to handle the Flag Smashers. They're very combative and competitive as well. It's just, I call it this camaraderie of annoyance and aggravation. Like they're just constantly going at each other. And this exchange they had in the hangar where Bucky steps up to Sam and says, "You had no right to give up the shield." And Sam's like, "You're not going to come here in your overextended life and tell me about my rights." Many, many layers to that, right? Obviously, being white and all that stuff, but also you've lived your life maybe 2-3 times over at this point. And Sam doesn't necessarily get that luxury either. Like, he's a human being. First of all, he ain't got no super soldier serum, so it is what it is. But what I love is, despite their differences, Sam and Bucky are united when it comes to not fucking with John Walker. It's very clear when that happens. As I said, Bucky's about that action. Because as one point he says, "Yo, let's just steal the shield, bro." I was dying. I'm like, that's so out of pocket, but I'm with it.
Didn't work out the first time.
It did not. And this was actually, during their therapy session, this was pretty heartfelt to me, even though Bucky said it with such anger, but it was also hurt. Because to me, he feels like his destiny is tied to Sam. And he's, as we said, where they're finding who they are as people. And Bucky is trying to understand what gives him redeeming value, right? He doesn't want to be necessarily this killer and this and that. And when he's talking to Sam, he says to Sam, "If Steve was wrong about you," meaning wrong about you needing to be Captain America, "then he was wrong about me." In his head, he's like, if Steve was wrong about that, then he's wrong about me being a redeeming human being.
Yep.
So there's that.
A fantastic line. And I mean, even better delivered by Sebastian.
Stan.
But what's very great is even Falcon's response when he's like, "Look, you and Steve will never understand what I have to go through to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm just doing what I thought was right."
Indeed. We have your boy, John Walker. # not my Captain America. # generic white man name. # great value cap. # good old boy from the South.
No, easy there. He is not, I know too many good old boys from the South. He has not earned that, qualification yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll wait on that.
Yeah, we got to wait on that. That's just
everything else, I'm giving it to him.
All right, yeah.
# not America's ass. I don't trust him. Something in me is saying, don't trust this man.
Yeah, I mean, that's because he's, obviously the villain of the series. Like, it's because this show is like leaning into it right now. And
right.
Like I said, I like Dude, and I really like what they've done with him so far. I really like his character. And I do feel like Bucky and Sam have way too many of their own issues to be worried about this man. And this whole hating on this man is really silly. You know what I mean? Like, this dude is trying to help, and he has resources they need. Even Falcon's little explanation, "Oh, you've got restrictions." Well, then why doesn't he work with his restrictions and we work without them, but we meet in the middle? It's the buddy cop film. When he used to lose
I don't want to work
cannon.
with you, fam. I don't like you. I don't like the cut of your jib. I don't like you.
Well, yeah, well, see, that's why your ass got served and these dudes had to come in. If not for them, you two would be splattered on the road somewhere, liking it or not. You know what I mean? Like, that's...
John Walker's is not vibes. I'm sorry, he's not.
Hey, that's I don't.
He's not.
Once again, Hayward ain't vibes. But if I'm in Westview, you know what I mean? I need that man to drop the nuke, to save me. Do what you got to do, fam.
Drop the nuke, so kill you in the process.
Well, I mean, maybe not the nuke. Just
what?
the missiles. Just the missiles. He was just
and potentially kill you in the process. What if you're too close? Splash damage is the thing.
Look, there's 3,800 people in there. 5-6 gotta go if we get rid of Wanda. You know what I mean? That I can live with that.
He said 5-6 gotta go.
That's acceptable also.
Oh my gosh.
Otherwise, it's 3,800. You got a choice: 5 or 6 or 38. Because otherwise, them people gonna die. The
morality paradox. Oh, child.
you know what I mean? I'm choosing the 5 or 6.
You said this maybe 5 times. That last line, BenHaMeen. Let's talk about that last line that your boy John Walker says, since you want to defend him. What he said?
No, I mean, this is his first last line that was terrible, was when he said that, it'd be easier with Cap's Wing Man by his side. But, like, that's the thing. Okay, we take it as disrespectful, but Falcon
That's
was
wild
his wingman.
disrespectful.
Once again, he's pointing out the reality. It's just Hayward pointing out, yo, look how she had you. Looking like a jive turkey. You know what I mean? It's not me who made you act like a jive turkey. I'm just pointing out that you was a jive turkey. He's like, it's not me that made you the sidekick. I'm just pointing out you was Steve's sidekick.
He said jive turkey. Once again, his blaxploitation keeps coming back.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Hayward was like, look at you. He was out there looking like the jive turkey. Hayward grew up on them blaxploitation films.
Ben.
Yes.
John says this in the context of, yo, I'm just trying to be the best Captain America I could be. I'm trying to do my job, and I could do my job better as long as I have your help. This is black labor. This is, I need a sidekick because I gotta further my own agenda. It's not flattering. It's not the truth. It's demeaning.
This is a white lead singer going to get a gospel group to back him up. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
He knows where the soul's at. He knows what he needs. You know what I mean? Nobody was mad at David Bowie when he went and got he formed the Young Americans, started singing soul.
Wait. Okay, wait. I'm not even going to go into that. But your example of these singers going to get the gospel group. Okay, I hear you. It's just tired.
I always hated myself.
It's just like, tired.
You're so whack. Like, you went and got the gospel group, you were tired. Yeah. But that's what he's doing for, you know what I mean? Look, he knows where it's at. You know, my man grew up in the hood. He knows what black people do, you know? Well, he's a quarterback. He ain't win them games by himself.
Right. Well, as much as I don't like the character, shout out to Wyatt Russell, who's the real person behind the character, the actor behind the character. He's doing an amazing job.
Yes.
And I want to also be clear, especially for people who seem not to make the distinction between a character and the actor. They're two different people. So if I'm going off on a character, especially when I use the character's name, I'm talking about the character, not the person themselves. Don't do that equation, please. Also, talk about tired. I don't like Lamar Hoskins.
God damn.
Flash Battlestar. I don't like the man. He corny. He's mad corny.
Look, my man just trying to live out here, just trying to function. The hate.
He's corny to me, sir. It's something about his energy I'm not effing with. And is he like a magical Negro? He's giving me magical Negro vibes, just the way he's just like, gotta help John Walker. Like, I don't.
We haven't had time to get into his personal life yet. You know what I mean? Like, geez,
I'm not talking
damn.
about personal life. I'm talking about how his vibe with John right now. You could say, they just buddies because they fought together and they in the same battalion. Okay, nigga, there's something wrong with how it feels. It don't feel right.
Wow.
And the other reason why also I said don't feel right, because it's also, I will admit that it's also comic book fueled. Yes. Because in the comic, Lamar, it's not hate. It's truth filled.
It's definitely hate.
It's not hate. I never say hate. I don't hate anybody. Hate is different. I'll never give nobody the power to hate.
You don't have to hate somebody to sip on the haterade.
Is holleration in the dancery hateration in this dancery?
You sipping on the hate though. There might not be a hateration, but
but that's one thing I will say. I don't hate people. Yes. I passionately dislike. So I passionately dislike this man right now. But again, this is also fueled by what I know of him in the comics. Because in the comics, he's a friend of John's, but he was also part of this crew called the Bold Urban Commandos, or Buck for short. They also call it Buckies, which, again, you talk about mirrors to Bucky Barnes. Anyway, this group, and the reason also why I say it's corny specifically is because that group staged, meaning they made fake attacks on Super Patriot, who was the mantle that John Walker had, to help lift his brand, to give him clout. These are clout chasers. I don't like clout chasers. I think that's corny.
Yeah, that's what John is. He's a clout chaser.
Corny.
The whole crew is clout chasers.
And that's what I mean when I say something ain't right. I don't want that in my I don't want that in my circle, bro. I don't. Mm-hmm. Like, you can, nah.
And also right now, let's give a quick shout out and rest in peace and blessings to the God Dwayne McDuffie, who was the reason why the name Bucky stopped being used to describe Lamar Hoskins, because the dude who was writing at the time is this guy named Mark Grunwald. Mark Grunwald's a white dude, but he wrote Captain America for years, right? Like, as a kid, he was writing Cap. I think it might have been 8-9 years he wrote that character, and so most of these stories are not like the Winter Soldier comes later. That's Ed Brubaker. But a lot of seminal Cap stories are from Mark Grunwald, right? He created Super Patriot. He created the U.S. Agent. This whole idea of Cap turning in his shield, all that's from him. So when he introduced Bucky, the Buckies, it was Lamar and 2 other guys. So then the other 2 guys get thrown off when they give the shield. They're like, nah, those 2 guys are too much trouble. We'll just take Lamar and you, John. And so he becomes Bucky to his Captain America. So it's like, oh, of course, Captain America needs a Bucky. But he's a black dude. So when Dwayne McDuffie hears about this, being a black man, he knows that Buck is, used to describe black men in the South as a derogatory term. It comes from slavery. Mm-hmm. So he's like, yo, Mark Gruenwald's a racist, right? And the editor at the time, one of the another editors, who I think is a black man, was like, no, Mark's not a racist. He just doesn't know. I didn't know myself. So go talk to him. Dwayne didn't even want to talk to him because he was scared that would ruin his career, even bringing it up. He was scared that he'd be, blacklisted. I hate to use that term, but, eliminated from the industry, basically. Mm-hmm. If he brings up, because then he's the angry black man who's like going to talk to Mark Gruenwald, who is a superstar writer at the time. You know what I mean? One of the biggest out writing Captain America, selling mad copies every month. But he goes and talks to Mark. Mark understands, appreciates that Dwayne came to him like this and starts hiring Dwayne and making sure Dwayne getting more work, which leads to the Dwayne McDuffie we know and love, who created so many things. That Justice League Unlimited cartoon we were just talking about is one of his brainchilds. So it's because of that Bucky in the comics then changes his name to Battlestar. And they have this really dope issue where Bucky is talking to this old janitor who's an older black man, and he's explaining to him, yo, you can't be Bucky, you know what I mean? You gotta be you just as strong as him. You can't be his sidekick like that. Mm-hmm. You gotta have your own name. And you can't be taking some white man's name. So that's how he becomes Battlestar, which is still a terrible ass name, but
Yeah.
we gonna go with it.
And even Bucky wasn't feeling the name, but also I'm like, is it just Bucky just fed up with like people deciding to be heroes and come up with code names? But he just wasn't. He was like Battlestar.
But that goes back to Civil War when Spider-Man rolls up on Falcon and him, and he's like, everybody's got a gimmick now. Yeah. He's sick of it.
He's sick of it.
Bucky's a grumpy old man.
I love Bucky. He is, and I keep forgetting. He is what, 106?
106. He is a grumpy old man. Boy,
yeah. Well,
if there's ever one.
Shout outs to real life Clay Bennett, who portrays Lamar Hoskins, aka Battlestar. He's also very prevalent in in animation and things like that. He played Earl Devereaux in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs TV series. That's The Cop. I believe it's The Cop. Mm-hmm. He's been in literally every iteration of like Total Drama Island, like all the Total Drama series. He you don't know what that is? Oh, okay. Well, no. I love Total Drama, but he played the Chef Hatchet, or I don't remember that he was actual chef or not. But he's also been more recently in The Man in the High Castle as Elijah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very good resume there. We also want to mention Carly Morgenthau. Right now, we know her as the leader of the Flag Smashers, played by Erin Kellyman, who, as we also know her at the top of the show, we mentioned she's Enfys Nest. She appeared in the Solo movie that some people did not like, but she did appear in that, and her character was fire. I liked what she did, so whatever. Mm-hmm. Carly gets likened to Robin Hood in this. Rob from the Rich, Steal for the Poor, which also gives you the understanding of the dynamic of a lot of these refugees and stuff from around the world. Like, y'all put them in a situation coming back. And she also gets this text on her phone that says, "You took what was mine. I'm going to find you and kill you." I'm presuming that's from the power broker and the fact that she potentially stole the serum for him, so that's why she has the super soldier type powers.
Yeah, because later on the power broker's men show up and shoot up her man, so I'm pretty sure that was the dude coming to kill them.
Right.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the power broker. You want to talk a little bit about who that is?
Yes, the Power Broker is a character, once again, created by Mark Gruenwald during his run on Captain America, who is this man who is out brokering powers to people, mainly super strength, toughness, all that. And Captain America kept running into people who had used him. Like I mentioned last week, there was a whole wrestling foundation of super strong individuals that the Thing actually joined for a while.
Oh.
And because, he needed something to do when he wasn't in the Fantastic Four.
Facts.
So he joins this wrestling, squad.
He basically ran around in wrestling gear.
Ran around already. So he was already dressed for the occasion.
Yes.
So Cap meets some of these people. Then he meets Super Patriot, battles him, realizes that Super Patriot got his powers from Power Broker, actually goes to the Power Broker and is thinking about getting powers from him. then, thinks twice about it, declines him. Power Broker's like, nah, you gonna get these powers one way or the other. I think he wanted to experiment on him, so he tries to juice him up.
You're gonna take these powers, okay?
Yeah, I think he was trying to see, how far he could push it or something. It's a comic book, whatever.
Okay.
So basically, the Power Broker gives out powers. Now, people are, thinking in the MCU, how long has the Power Broker been around, right?
Right.
Was he involved with Hydra? Was he involved with giving the Winter Soldier powers? Was he involved with giving Isaiah powers? Or is it a more recent thing that now he's just giving out powers? And we'll have to find out, as this goes along.
We don't know, but we will find out. And perhaps, at least, in the comics, I think you already said this, but Battlestar and John Walker basically become his clients. And
they in the comics, they got their powers before we even meet them.
Right. And they got it from Power Broker.
Yeah, they're already super strong the first time we see them.
Right. So maybe in the show, in this actual show, maybe will there be an exchange there happening? Maybe not. I
think it's one or two things. I think either John Walker, like I said before, already has powers, or he's going to get powers when he realizes he can't fight people like the Flag Smasher, and even he's not ready to be Steve Rogers level without powers. Okay. Without some type of super soldier serum, which, come on, let's act like Cap ain't on drugs, but like Cap didn't have the ultimate steroids, like he has heart and all that, but he also has, the super soldier serum.
Right. Rounding out, we have one of our faves, Dr. Christina Rayner, who's played by Amy Aquino. We also have Olivia Walker, who is, once again, John Walker's wife, who earlier in the show, you said some stuff that made me mad. I was like, what?
Look, I'm just saying, we have not met his parents. He going to have some tragedy at some point. And
right.
Yeah.
Well, she's played by Gabrielle Binlos. I hope I said your name right. She was actually in an episode of Ozark, which is very cool. One of my good days. She was also in an episode of Doom Patrol as Patty, and a few other things. And also, finally, we got to mention the Finding Zemo. Mm-hmm. In the MCU, anyway, he was basically responsible for all that strife that led to the tensions that led up to the happenings of the Civil War film.
Yep. And also, the reason for going to see him is slightly nonsensical to me.
Oh, explain that.
Yeah, they say that he is one of the people who would know all of Hydra's secrets. But the only reason to know that Zemo knows all Hydra's secrets is because the Black Widow released all of these secrets onto the internet, right, where anyone can research them. And it's been years that they've been out.
It's on Reddit. It's everywhere.
It's been debated. It's been discussed a million different ways. Yeah. And this man is sitting in prison right now. Like, he ain't been doing no more research, right? So, I get it. We got to have Zemo on the show, and I love that dude, and I can't wait to see him, especially because he's going to be rocking the purple mask. If he gets the fur collar, it's over. Like, y'all don't know about Zemo's fur collar from the comics and the cartoons. Look it up. My man got like a leopard print, a Dalmatian fur collar.
Yeah, his outfit is wild.
Pure fire. Fuego. Zemo got one of the best outfits in all comicdom.
Oh, you should. Maybe you should do that for Halloween next year. You gonna do Zemo?
I actually want to do the Destro that's based on that Zemo. Okay. The Destro with the fur collar and the gold mask.
Gotcha. Okay. That'd be cool.
There we go.
And finally, we are closing out our review and I forgot the other word I was trying to say, research, in terms of Easter eggs and inspirations. We've mentioned lots of Easter eggs and inspirations as we've been talking, but just specifically that opening zipper shot was, and I asked the question to Ben, was this a recreation of another scene or something? What does this represent?
Not that I know of. I've heard and seen people on YouTube talking about that it's actually maybe an inspiration by like a body bag, which is kind of weird to me because it's like, the dead cap, the
old cap is dead. Here's the new cap.
The old cap is dead. Here's the new cap.
That's morbid.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's not like that Iron and Man in the first episode,
which I still think is dumb. Like, man,
I really still think that was a tribute to Iron Man, but yeah. The only other big Easter egg in this episode is that the cell on Zemo's screen, when we see Zemo sitting in the cell, there's some numbers down at the bottom. The numbers are 2187, which are the same numbers from Princess Leia's cell in the very first Star Wars, as well as why Finn from the new Star Wars has the call number
FN 2187.
because it's a throwback to Princess Leia's cell.
Right.
And the MCU has always paid tribute to Star Wars. Kevin Feige is a huge Star Wars fan. He's actually producing a Star Wars movie. And one of the best ones to me is on all of Phase 2, because it was supposed to be mirroring the Empire Strikes Back being the second Star Wars film. Someone gets their hand chopped off in every single one of those films.
Okay.
Yeah.
Princess,
Go check it out.
Princess Zemo. Love it.
Princess Zemo. There you go.
And then in the credits, it's the same credits from before. I know it's interesting because a lot of the stuff that came to pass in this episode were based on the stuff that you caught in the end credits.
Yeah.
You mentioned the power broker because it was mentioned at the end credits at some point. Isaiah Bradley, obviously, and maybe some more stuff going on.
Yeah, Madripoor is still mentioned in the credits. We haven't seen that yet, but it has been seen in the trailers. We actually, something else I picked up this week that I didn't see before is the One World, One People.
Yeah.
Is in Polish in one of those end credit scenes. So
it's there. Okay.
Yeah, that's all there. You know, there's a lot of little stuff, but it's mainly stuff that we're gonna see. And like I said, that's one thing I really like about the show is while there are a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of callbacks to the comics and callbacks to old movies and stuff, it's not so much where it's like, oh, look at what we did, as more of it's just, organically part of the story.
Yeah.
Like, I love those for WandaVision, but after a while, I felt like, if you're going to have Easter eggs, you got to have like when you have like the Grim Reaper's helmet in the very first episode, and then he never shows up anything.
What if they do it now? So then 2-3 years down the line, they were like,
True.
Remember in WandaVision episode 4 whatever, you saw this.
Yeah. I mean, that works too. Like I said, it's just two different approaches, and I like both approaches.
Yeah.
Because I loved all the ridiculous amount of Easter eggs in WandaVision. I just wish it had a little bit more on the story end. And we'll see how this goes. I don't know if this going to have all the story I need so far. We'll see.
Yeah,
and WandaVision, for not having what it did, also did a lot of other just stupid, amazing things that I've never seen done in any TV before. So
yeah, so I'm
both
still
are fire.
I'm still giving the Falcon the Winter Soldier episode 2 a thumbs up, and I enjoyed reviewing this. So that leads us to say thank you so much for joining us for this jam-packed episode. I know someone on Twitter asked us, "Can y'all have a 2-hour-long episode?" Well, it happened. We weren't trying to; it just happened.
They asked for that. They want
asked for more. Yeah. They're like, "Yo, can y'all speak for 5 hours?" I'm not doing that, but we ended up doing 2. Thank you for sticking around and for thinking with us, deliberating with us, discussing with us. Shout out to all of the fam across the globe who is listening and who is supporting us. Make sure you are subscribed to For All Nerds on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you are subscribed to us on Twitch, twitch.tv/forallnerds. Shout out to the fam in the chat. Love you. Always have fun time with you every week, Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you are in that chat because we have a blast. Also, if the chat gets super popping, it's super lit, you might get a free subscription, but you got to be in it to win it. So make sure you show up. Also, thank you to everyone who supports us financially, whether you're on our Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds. Everything you do helps to keep this show running. It helps to pay the bills, especially literally and figuratively, especially pay the bills when it comes to our team behind us. We have an incredible team from our sound editor, engineer, to other writers and other editors that work with us. Shout out to Uncolored Page, who talks about all of our gaming. Shout outs to Chica, who's our social media editor. Really incredible work that everyone puts in, and everything you do for us helps them as well. Also, you can support us by visiting our TeePublic page. That's tpublic.com/stores/forallnerds, where you can get some incredible artwork put on your very special products. So whether it's t-shirts or a sweatshirt that I'm wearing the Sketch Sawyer exclusive design that you literally cannot get anywhere else but on our TeePublic page. This is the Storm on a motorbike, the Mohawked Storm. Thank you so much to everyone who's already purchased some items. You can get, as I mentioned, clothing. You can put these designs on cups, on books, on pillows, on phone cases, anything you could think of. And thank you to all the fire artists who have helped us put out some incredible designs. And we're going to be coming up with some new designs. We actually have the design coming up for Views from the 616. Really happy about that. Really excited about that. Can't wait to put that up for you all. What am I missing, BenHaMeen? Anything else?
Make sure you follow us both on Twitter, on Instagram, on all the social medias. I'm at DJ BenHaMeen. She is at Tatiana King. And like you said before, twitch.tv/forallnerds. Every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern for the main show. For All Nerds, Views from the 616. This, I swear to God, will be the last 2-hour episode we ever do. Cosmic Cuba Jordan Jr.